I gotta run to the bathroom real quick, then we'll be ready. I'll be ready to go.
Sounds good.
All right, it should be here it goes. Hello, everybody. We'll be starting in about 5 minutes here. Please like, share, subscribe, get this out there. We always start the live streams a little bit early just to get people sharing the link out there. So please help us out and let's get it. We'll get going here in a few minutes. Thanks. All right, folks, we're going to get started here in about 2 minutes. Please like, share, subscribe, invite people. We got a great live stream lined up tonight, some wonderful guests. We're going to be taking audiences from our questions from the audience in the chat, and we're going to have a lot of fun with this. So, looking forward to it. Well, hello, free people of the Rocky Mountain region. This is Brandon, and welcome to our weekly legislative live stream. Every week during the legislative session, myself, Brandon from Free State, Colorado, and Michael Vance, legislative director of the Libertarian Party of Colorado, host a live stream telling you about the bills that are going through the state legislature this week, trying to empower you as an individual to have a voice in our state government and have some great guests that you can learn about some what's going on down there and get some inside information. Michael, how are you tonight?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to talk with our fantastic guests. I'm excited to see this legislative session end, and I'm really excited to get into it. How about yourself, sir?
Definitely. It's been an absolutely crazy week. So last Monday, we were down at the state legislature testifying in defense of our taxpayers' Bill of Rights. We had Michael Vance, we had a Forest Mommy down there, we had Jody down there, we had Natalie Menton, we had tons of people down there speaking in defense of our taxpayers' Bill of Rights. Tabor, of course, our state legislature, the authoritarian Democrats want to repeal Tabor. They want to take as much money as they can out of our pockets, not have to ask the public or the voters for a tax increase and just totally run roughshod over our state. So thankfully, we have Tabor, the Taxpayers Bill of Rights. It's helped us a lot. It's protected us. It's the only reason we aren't East California as much as it may seem like we are these days. So really appreciate you being down there, Michael, and everybody else who showed up. What do you think about that hearing?
I thought it was extremely disappointing to see this pass. I thought it was wildly phenomenal to hear some of the testimony, especially from some of the experts, as they might say. There was especially people like David Skaggs, a former legislator. He was a former House rep, former U.S. Congressman, and they straight out said that they think they know better than us. And that was wild. That was absolutely wild for me to hear that they thought that they know better than us, the citizens of Colorado, about how to handle taxes, how to run our lives essentially. Um, I was absolutely flabbergasted, but at the same time, I'm happy to hear them actually speak the truth. So because they really are kind of letting their masks down and showing you how truly awful they are.
Oh, 110%. It was absolutely horrible to actually sit there in the same room with these tyrants, these authoritarians, talking about how they could better manage our money, they can better run the government. They're totally against this idea of the people having any say whatsoever. It seems to me, at least. I mean, that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but nonetheless, the fact that they would just want to take an unlimited amount of money out of our paychecks is very, very sickening, ultimately.
Absolutely. It was awesome. But what was encouraging about it was hearing some of the people that did show up to testify, particularly those that did show up to testify against these bills, people that are actually affected by this legislation, unlike people like former Representative Skaggs. You heard some fantastic, passionate testimony, very intelligent testimony from Natalie Minton to Forrest Mommy. Missy Espinosa was down there, and she really took it to them. I mean, there was one point where they tried to interrupt her and she just comes back and says, "I reclaim my time," and gets right back into it and just giving people like especially Lorena Garcia the what for. So it was fantastic to see. We need more of that down at the Capitol. Frank was down there. That was phenomenal. So happy to see everybody who showed up. Valdemar, another fantastic individual who gave testimonies. So um, appreciate everybody who showed up.
Definitely. And then we had horrible news, of course, late in the week here, where our authoritarian governor, Jared Polis, signed Senate Bill 3, ushering in the worst gun control in Colorado's history, one of the most restrictive gun laws in the country's history. Absolutely tyrannical. I mean, people are up in arms, people are outraged, and I'm really hoping that people get involved. They use this as a wake-up call to start fighting, to start getting involved in their local governments, the state legislature, and pushing back, because ultimately that's what it's going to take is people getting involved, showing up, and really getting organized with other liberty-minded individuals to try and turn this state around.
Oh, 100%. I'm really glad you brought up Senate Bill 3 and its signing because initially we thought that Polis was just gonna kind of chimp out and just decide to, let it not necessarily veto it, but just kind of let it turn into a law on its own and not actually sign it. But he actually put his name down on that piece of paper and said, "No, I want to attach myself to this." And it makes sense because Polis, I mean, him and his office were working with those legislators trying to manipulate this bill as much as he could the entire way through. So he needed to pass this anyway because essentially what he did even before he signed this bill killed his own presidential career, his federal hopes because he's not going to be electorally viable. I mean, the only thing he could possibly do is hope to get maybe another Senate seat if we can if Colorado doesn't go in a more liberty direction from in the next couple years. That might be his best bet, but he's killed his federal career electorally. We can assure you that.
Yeah, and like you said, Jared Polis is responsible for the amendments that were added to this bill at the 12th hour, the 11th hour when it was in the Senate. I mean, he worked with bill sponsors to make this, in his mind, more constitutional, more practical, and able to stick. So it's truly as Jared Polis's gun ban. I mean, ultimately, he's responsible. Not only did he sign it, but he helped craft it. And yeah, it is what it is, folks, but we're not giving up. We're not going anywhere. We're going to keep fighting and we're going to take our state back. So, first step is knowing what's going on in our state government. How does that
That's
sound, Michael?
I think you're absolutely right about that. We got to know what's going on in our state government and we got to get prepared for 2026 because if you give up, you let yourself get quote unquote blackpilled, you move to another state, it's going to grow here in Colorado and then that cancer is going to spread. It's going to follow you there and if you didn't get activated here, you're not going to get activated there. You're not going to care as much about that state as you did here and then you're going to whine, complain, do nothing and it's going to take you over there. So you might as well get involved, get active, get in the fight now. And the way we do it is by, as Brandon said, knowing about your state legislature. So this is the first step to doing that. So we appreciate you coming on board and spending a couple hours with us on a Sunday night.
Yeah, let's go ahead and switch over to our slide deck here that we got tonight. And I'm going to go ahead and hit record, especially when our guests come on, so we can get some good video that we can share out to people who didn't make it to the live stream. But so we're going here. So here's what we got tonight, folks. We have some great guests joining us. We have Erin Lee, mom who's championing parental rights, who's fighting back against this absolutely sickening woke genderism cult that tried to take her daughter. And I'm really excited to see what she has to say about everything that's been going on this year, especially with House Bill 1312. And then we have Representative Brandi Bradley, one of our liberty leaders, one of our true fighters down at the state capitol. So really interested to see the updates here as we swing into the last portion of this year's session. Perfect. So just started adding these slides here. We probably should have been doing it since the beginning, but I think it's something we learned from our previous years. So if you only see a little bit of this, or you want a quick call to action here, take a screenshot of this. And at least in my mind, these are two of the most important bills that you can testify on in committee hearings this week. You have House Bill 1327. Natalie Menton was sounding the alarm on this one. They want to make it harder Of course, they want to make it more difficult for citizens to get things on the ballot, to have our voice heard. As we know, Tabor, the Taxpayers Bill of Rights, was put on the ballot by Colorado citizens, and they've made it more restrictive since 1992 when it became a law, when it became part of the Constitution. And unfortunately, they really hate this idea that the citizens have the right to petition, the right to get things in front of the voters, the right to change our government. So we're going to talk a little bit about this one, but folks, these are two of the biggest ones. And then we have House Bill 1225, the Freedom from Intimidation in Elections Act. It's an anti gun bill. The sponsors, of course, want to totally transform our society in which even just carrying a firearm or owning a firearm is taboo. They wanted to make it so that it's not a socially normal thing for people to have or a culturally normal thing for people to have guns. And that's what House Bill 1225 is about. So, yeah, it's bad stuff for sure, folks. We do have some great guests on tonight, and we're going to have a lot of fun. So looking at our schedule here, we just started here at 7:30. We're going to spend the next little 20 minutes or so talking about some of the bills being heard this week. Then at 8 p.m., we're having Erin Lee jump on to give us an update there. Really interested in the parental rights fight. And then at 8:30, Representative Brandi Bradley to give us an update about what's happening down at the state legislature. And then at 9, we'll get back to bills being heard this week. And then towards the end of the live stream here, we'll get an update on some of the bigger bills, some of the more important bills that are being heard that are not necessarily being heard this week, but just kind of we've been tracking, keeping an eye on, and just giving you an update on all those. All right. How does that sound, Michael?
That sounds great. I'm excited to get into it. We got a lot to cover today, but it's really important.
Definitely. So we're going to talk about some of the bills being heard in committee this week. Now, some of the other bills, of course, that are in the news that are going on are being heard on the House floor, the Senate floor. And that's really important, but there's really not an opportunity for the public to engage. Of course, you can reach out to your legislator, reach out to all the legislators down there, and really ask them to vote the right way on any of the bills that there's going through the House floor or the Senate floor this week. But we're really focusing on these committee hearings where people can show up, look at these bill sponsors, look these legislators in the eye, tell them how wrong they are, speak truth, and have a voice. It's so important, and now more than ever, that people are involved in the process and see how this sausage is being made. So perfect here. Let's jump into Monday. So tomorrow, April 14th, folks, two interesting bills in the House Finance Committee. So the House Finance Committee meets at 1:30 p.m. at House Committee Room 112. It's the first floor of the state capitol there. Thought this one was interesting. For the Democrats who just a few years ago were all about defunding the police, we're all about, you know, anti-police, they hate the police, ACAB, this and this and this. They sure like the idea of weaponizing the government. And this point here in Colorado, they're trying to weaponize the government for Department of Revenue employees. That's right. So, this bill expands the peace officer authority for the auto industry investigator and auto industry division director positions to include enforcement of all the laws of the state, and requires the investigators and director to be peace officer standards and board and training board post board certified. So, there's already so many divisions of law enforcement and all these different executive agencies, and they just want to continue to expand that. So, without getting into the details of the merits of whether this is important or not, I thought it was an interesting illustration because a lot of people aren't aware of how there's police officers basically in so many of these executive departments. Any thoughts on this one, Michael?
No, I think that's a great point. I find it very interesting that whenever the Democrats love to talk about policing, police officer enforce, police, poli LEOs, and how concerned they are about criminal justice and criminal justice reform, yet when it comes to your money and the taxation, they have zero problem whatsoever using that as an excuse to increase the enforcement of the law, particularly from a law enforcement position against you, the people. I find it's incredibly hypocritical. There is nothing about this that says it's going to shrink the size and scope of government. It's just going to create more cops to take away your money.
Definitely, yeah. So they're going to have the authority to enforce all of the laws of the state. And of course, Department of Revenue has been so tied up in, alcohol, tobacco, firearms. Of course, that's a big thing at the federal level. So now you have some people in the auto industry regulatory scheme here that are going to have more police powers. So just wanted to bring this to people's attention. Not the end of the world, but something to pay attention to, something that's interesting, and that's kind of what we want to cover every week here, some stuff you may not have heard elsewhere. So this is being heard Monday in the House Finance Committee, but also heard in this House Finance Committee is a bill we've been talking a lot. There's a lot of people out there who are into Bitcoin, who are into cryptocurrency. So just want to keep this one at the forefront of people's attention. If you operate a vending machine for Bitcoin or any automated type of machine, just know that these virtual currency kiosks are going to face a little bit changes in the regulation. So whether it's good or bad, is pretty subjective, I think, in terms of some of the stuff in there. Of course, all the regulation on this is bad, in my opinion. Don't get me wrong. I don't think it's the role of the government to be involved in any of these processes of regulating, virtual currency kiosks. But nonetheless, something that people should be aware of, should be paying attention to. Of course, there's been a lot of problems with fraud, a lot of problems with criminals kind of exploiting people to use these kiosks to launder money and steal some of their money. So we've seen that happen quite a bit in Colorado. Unfortunately, there's some interesting news stories out there these last couple of years, but nonetheless, an interesting bill we want to make sure people are aware of. What do you think about this one, Michael?
No, I completely agree. I find the third point down there um, very, very concerning because at the end of the day, if you're getting into crypto, you should know on your own that you possibly could be entering a scam. There's a lot of phenomenal cryptocurrencies out there. I know you and I, Brandon, we were just down at Liberty on the Rocks and heard a fantastic presentation about Bitcoin and the future of Bitcoin. But at the same time, there's a lot of bad actors that want to play in that space. And if they're sitting there trying to tell somebody that they did not do their proper due diligence on a cryptocurrency and then they get scammed, it's going to actually be the fault of the individual who has the cryptocurrency ATM. That's going to be extremely concerning to me, and that's going to absolutely kill the industry. So I'm very concerned and that's what concerns me about this bill. So yeah, you can see here they're going to nickel and dime your way. Yeah, daily transaction limit. So if you buy $1,000, one time, that for that individual, that one transaction, this law may not be that big of a deal. But when you start thinking about one transaction and then another transaction and then another transaction, because cryptocurrency, it's kind of like the wild wild west, and that's one thing libertarians love about cryptocurrency is the government does not get involved. That regulation is not there. But when they try to do that, there's going to be a lot of detrimental consequences for the industry, and it's going to limit that innovation that we so desperately crave within the markets.
100%. Yeah, we don't want the government regulating cryptocurrency, AI. We've saw an AI bill this year. We see all the government trying to get their grubby little hands into every aspect of our society. And of course, when it comes to this leading technology, it's really not the proper role of government. We know government is not as quick to respond to the market and changes in technology. They pass this bill, and then who knows what it's the unintended consequences of it years from now. I'd love to see more Bitcoin ATMs and things like that pop up across Colorado, but this bill is going to definitely make that a little bit more difficult, make it more expensive, and create this extra regulatory hurdle for people who want to be entrepreneurs when it comes to virtual currency kiosks. So interesting stuff, people, also being heard this Monday in the House Finance Committee at 1:30 p.m. Even if you're just interested in this topic, folks, you can always listen to that committee hearing from home. You can listen to it on your phone. You can listen to it from your home computer, your office. Listen to the conversations. It's pretty interesting, and this bill has made it quite a way through the legislature. It's passed all the way through the Senate. They did change and make some amendments to it, and is now in the House. So it'll be interesting to see if there's any other amendments that come up on this one. So perfect. Let's jump over. Also on Monday, this is definitely one of the biggest bills. Probably, I would say the biggest bill of the week, folks. This is something really to pay attention to. This is in the House State Civic, Military, and Veterans Affairs Committee, Monday, April 14th, 1:30 p.m. LSBA, so that's the Legislative Service Building. So it's across 14th on the south side of the Capitol. And I think it's the old State Museum, if I'm not mistaken. So check this out. There's a packed committee hearing, lots of interesting stuff there. We briefly talked about the Colorado Voting Rights Act before, but this week really wanted to focus on this 1327, the modify statewide ballot measure processes. So, folks, if you don't know, Colorado is one of the few states with the right to petition. It's something that Natalie Menton is really passionate about. Of course, Douglas Bruce, who is able to get our Taxpayers' Bill of Rights codified into state law through the petition process. So, of course, you have these little creeps down at the legislature here. There's no shortage of bad ideas between Emily Sirota, Meg Frolix, Frog Lips, and Kathy Kipp down there. So, bad stuff, folks. There's a lot to this, unfortunately. Look how long this bill summary is. Let's click into the fiscal note and just kind of get more of a summary here for you out there, folks. So here we go. The bill makes several changes to the procedures for citizen-initiated and legislatively referred ballot measures. Under current law, proponents of a citizen initiative must submit a petition draft to the title board in the department state for title setting. If proponents submit 5 or more drafts concerning the same subject and with one designated representative being the same for all drafts, the bill requires that they also submit a chart that describes the differences between each draft. So, of course, we've seen this happen before. People who've been involved in the petition process, they might submit multiple drafts because there's some that'll work, some that won't. And the idea is you want to get something that the title board approves. You want to get something that is going to be a good law. I mean, good policy. So that's kind of the reason they do it. It's very interesting how that whole process works, but of course they want to make it a little bit more difficult. They want to clamp down on people who are submitting too many, in their mind, in their eyes, too many of these drafts. The bill also adjusts the calendar for the title board by moving the final scheduled meeting each year from the third to the first Wednesday in April. So it's moving up that timeline a little bit there, a couple weeks. In addition, if a rehearing is requested for measures considered at the final meeting, it will be held on the third Wednesday in April rather than within 48 hours of the final meeting as required under current law. The bill also requires proponents of an initiated measure to notify the Secretary of State when the petition being circulated has received 25, 50, and 70% of the required number of signatures to qualify for the ballot. If petition circulation stops at any point before the election, proponents must notify the Secretary of State within 5 days that the petition is not being actively circulated. The Secretary of State must post this information on the department's website and may impose a fine of up to $1,500 for proponents that fail to notify the Secretary of the signature collection status. So there you go, folks. It's definitely making it a little bit more challenging and additional requirements here. And we actually got a message here from Representative Bradley who says this bill has a safety clause, which means it goes into effect very quickly after the session is convened or ended, after the session ends, and that the people of Colorado don't have the ability to change that through a petition, unfortunately. So adding insult to injury there, folks. Blue Book and fiscal notes. For an initiative proposing a tax increase, the bill requires that the fiscal summary prepared for the title board by Legislative Council staff include a preliminary estimate of the maximum dollar amount of the change in state and local government revenue and fiscal year spending for the first and, if phased in, final full fiscal year of the proposed tax increase. And the statewide voter guide, the Blue Book, include an estimate of the maximum dollar amount of both the change in state and local government revenue and fiscal year spending for the first full fiscal year and the amount of state and local government fiscal year spending without the proposed tax increase. So definitely some changes here, folks. It's not good for sure. So here we go. Here, the background on these fiscal notes is always so interesting because they give you some extra information that just reading the bill itself won't tell you. So the background here is that another great benefit of Tabor, folks, if you don't know this, why Tabor is so great and why Tabor is so hated by these authoritarians is because Tabor requires voter approval required for any new tax rate increase, extension of an expiring tax, or tax policy change causing an increase in net tax revenue. Tabor further requires that prior to any election seeking such voter approval, voters be provided with 1, an estimate of the amount of revenue generated by the proposed tax increase, and 2, an estimate of fiscal year spending without the proposed tax increase, each for the first full fiscal year of such an increase. If either of these estimates is exceeded in the first full fiscal year of a new tax, the amount of the excess is required to be refunded to taxpayers and tax rates adjusted accordingly, unless there is subsequent voter approval to retain the revenue. So this is great. We saw this with the sports betting. We saw this with, I think sports betting is the most recent example I can think of where they collected too much money. And they said, hey, so we had that ballot measure last year asking the voters to keep that money. But for a while there, that excess tax revenue collected from sports betting in Colorado was given back to the voters. So that is what is so great about Tabor. I know we have some great comments in there as well. But what do you think about this one, Michael?
I think this one's going to be a disaster for our state. I find it phenomenally hypocritical that the Democrats want to attack our ability to petition on the ballot. especially when they love to proclaim themselves as the quote unquote party of the democracy. Look no further than what they tried to pull this week with Tabor. You and I went down. We just talked about how you and I went down there to testify at the Capitol. This is something that the people have repeatedly said that they want. Time and time and time again, from Prop HH to the multiple lawsuits to other ballot initiatives that we've seen over the years. Uh, Consistently, Tabor wins. It's a constitutional ballot for constitutional amendment for a reason, and it's upheld the test of time every single time. So uh, I'm absolutely frustrated that this is even something that's even going to be a question that is going to be um, given to the General Assembly and not even the people. Something like this should be, if anything, something like this should be voted on by the people, even. And if I remember correctly, I think there was another bill that that went into the that was proposed last year that was also struck down. And I want to say, tell me if I'm wrong about this, but I can't remember if it was just in the General Assembly or if it was a ballot initiative as well. I can't remember quite which one, but I remember they tried that the General Assembly tried to attack our ability to ballot petition as well last year, and I know that it ended up failing. So I'm really hoping that happens with this as well. But this is absolutely insane. You can see I appreciate that you highlighted this little portion because this is going to make it even more difficult for people who are running a ballot initiatives. It's a lot of additional reporting that's completely unnecessary. Also, why if you stop petitioning, if you stop circulating petitions because you know that it's not going to be something you're going to continue to do, why should you also have to report that to the Secretary of State? If you're, it's not going to come to the Secretary of State. That's something that they do not need to be um, worried about. Um, it seems
Oh,
like another reason to find people.
oh, definitely. Yeah. As Natalie in the chat here says that it is she signed up to amend this bill. She has a letter to the editor supposed to be published in Colorado Politics. That's great. It includes a new penalty for petition reps. So I've been out there. I helped gather petitions. Natalie was doing it as well for the Independence Institute a few years ago to lower the state income tax. And the voters loved that idea. And we got to lower our state income tax through this petition process. But I can't imagine, if anybody who's been involved, and I'm sure Erin will have some context for this as well, but if you've been involved in the petition process, you don't necessarily know if you've received 25, 50, or 70% of the required number of signatures, right? Because you might be giving them out to volunteers, right? You have the petition forms filled out, or you have them printed, you have to pay for all that printing, and you give them out to volunteers, you give them out to paid circulators, people all across the state, and you might not necessarily know how many they have at any given moment. So creating this $1,500 fine for people who aren't reporting to the Secretary of State about their ability to gather petitions is definitely very detrimental. But we do have our special guest joining us here. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the share there. And Erin, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. That was a timely entrance there talking about ballot measures. I can definitely provide insight.
Perfect. And I don't know if you've met Michael Vance. He's the legislative director of the Libertarian Party.
It's good to meet you.
You too.
Yeah, definitely. You've been doing amazing work, Erin, standing up for parental rights, standing up for children. I know you had that wonderful conference just 2 weeks ago, or just over a week ago now, and really appreciate all the hard work you've done, and really appreciate you taking time on a Sunday night to join us, talk about what's going on down at the state legislature. So, if you want to, maybe give a little bit of background for people who don't know who you are.
Sure. Thanks for having me. That there is no conversation I would rather be having. Colorado is upside down, clown world, make believe, pretend land at our capital, and we have got to have these conversations about it. So thank you for what you do. Well, I'm a Colorado mom. I've got 3 kids here in the Fort Collins area, and I was, really a disengaged, leftist leaning, typical white liberal virtue signaling woman until the agenda of gender ideology came after my kid. So 2021, my little girl was lured really into a secret gender and sexuality club, convinced that her normal pubescent discomfort and awkwardness meant she's a transgender boy. She was taught how to medicalize. She was connected to her predators, who were an outside organization online. She was taught how to see a gender affirming therapist without my knowledge, how to get a gender affirming care letter in her school without my consent, taught that, puberty blockers and top surgery would fix her discomfort in her body. And she was a 12-year-old little girl at the height of COVID in a new state, new school. Of course, she was uncomfortable in her body. So that sent us on about a year-long spiral into depression and suicidality with our little 12-year-old girl. And we're one of the lucky ones who got her out of this cult. And it's a cult. They taught her not to tell her parents that we weren't safe. They glitter bombed her, love bombed her with this ideology, with toys and stickers, and just got her excited about being transgender. And we're just really lucky that we're one of the few that I know of that has pulled our child out of this cult mentality, and that we can be so public about it. We went really, really public. About a year later, we filed a federal lawsuit. Pam Bondi and AFPI took our case, and that's ongoing in the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals. I co-founded Protect Kids Colorado along with Senator Kevin Lundberg and some other amazing patriots and believers. And as you were talking about ballot initiatives, we've really pushed forward these ballot initiatives that protect parental rights, protect female spaces, protect now children from mutilation and from child sex trafficking. So our issues are really the wide scope of protecting kids in the state of Colorado, because the attacks are coming at them from every angle.
Erin, thank you for coming on. Really appreciate it. I've heard about your story for a while now, so I'm excited to be able to get the chance to finally speak with you. Wanted to ask you, my first question for you is, how exactly did you pull your kid out of this gender cult?
Drastically. And I hear from 3 to 5 parents a week. Just since we went public in 2022, I average about 3 parents a week around the country who are reaching out in a similar situation, many here in Colorado. And my advice is always be drastic. We pulled her out of school immediately. And so 2 days later, they sent Child Protective Services to my home because we weren't immediately affirming her or okay with what the public school had done. We took away the cell phone, which she hated us for. But as a 12-year-old little girl, that was my fault for ever giving her an unfettered device that gave her unfettered access to the internet 24/7. So we took away the internet, we cut out toxic friendships, we replaced all of those things that we removed with healthy habits, with healthy hobbies, with more family time, with church, with, just things that reminded her that she doesn't need to live in this fantasy world where she believes that she's actually a boy. And we did what I call drive-bys, where we just had subtle, some people say trans is a cult, or, there's no wrong way to be a girl. It's okay if you're a tomboy. It's okay if you're quirky. We support however you choose to express yourself as a girl. And really, ultimately, it was really hard conversation. It was my husband, it was dad intervening and just blatantly addressing the issue with her about 9 months in, and really giving her an off ramp to say, okay, my parents are not going to go along with this. They support me no matter what, but she was waiting for that moment for us to give her an out, because being trans never made her happier. It made her deeply depressed. It alienated her from what few friends she had. And, she took the off ramp, and she got out, and she's now completely desisted, meaning she's no longer identifying as trans, and she did not medically mutilate herself. So we're lucky she's in that category. And as Brandon referenced, last Sunday, Colorado Parent Advocacy Network had an amazing panel with some, big time national heavy hitters on this issue. And my daughter did her very first public speech, and there was not a dry eye in the room when she was just so vulnerable and honest about how all of this has left her feeling the shame and embarrassment that she still carries because she fell into this. And I think it's really important for people to understand that we have to meet these kids with compassion and empathy, and meet them where they are, and understand that they carry a lot of shame as a result of what they've been put through.
Wow. Wow. We'll definitely applaud you for sharing the story, for going public, for, being an outspoken parent, somebody who's making sure this doesn't happen to other kids and other families. And I think that is so important, because I think for a long time people they didn't want to believe this was happening, right? I mean, this has been an issue for years now. This has been happening for a long time, but I think a lot of parents, and a lot of people in the community say, no, that can't be true. It's too extreme. It's too crazy. And then thankfully we have people that when it does happen, at least, thankfully that people are speaking out, standing up and getting this out in front of people to the point now where this is becoming a kind of a flashpoint in Colorado where we have school board meetings where parents like we just saw in Jefferson County and down in Colorado, down in El Paso and Colorado Springs recently, where parents are just showing up in mass and people are getting engaged. And of course, a big part of that is because we have some extremist legislators in our state government who want to interfere with our family relationships, who want to basically take the place of the parents or push the parents out of the picture. It's crazy that these legislators think that they can make a better decision for these kids than the parents can. So, Erin, can you tell us a little bit about the fight for parental rights and a fight against this gender cult in the state capitol this year?
Yeah, well, I mean, since 2019, as I'm sure you've covered, they've been passing these radical laws in relation to the transgender movement. They lowered the age of healthcare consent to 12. They mandated that all therapists must affirm gender confused youth. They forced these surveys in House Bill 231003 on all 6th through 12th graders, where they then direct them to the state's mental health program called I Matter, where they are absolutely indoctrinating kids. I actually followed a link through the iMatter survey and it deemed me high risk, which I think I'm a pretty healthy 40-year-old woman, which tells me that they're all deemed high risk and referred to the iMatter program. When I clicked on the counselors that were available, they were all LGBTQ affirming and sex work positive. So they're forcing laws that force our kids to be directed to these counselors secretly because they've passed a law to lower the age to 12. They passed 1039, which forces teachers to socially transition children, even if the parents say don't. It leaves it up to the districts to set policy, and most are not passing parental notification policy. And now they're coming in hot in 2025 with 1312, 1309, Senate Bill 129, now Senate Bill 284, which is going to force, I'm calling that the Protect Skittles and Splash Law, which is the groomer organization that came into my daughter's classroom. That bill essentially looks to force these GSAs into all of our public schools, including charters, and exclude any Christian organizations or organizations that won't abide by calling that man a woman. 1312, honestly, it's a gift. They have overplayed their hand. They have completely boiled the frog on this one. I've been sounding the alarm since 2021, like, guys, it's bad. They're stripping your rights down there. You've got to show up bit by bit. And they've done it incrementally to just strip our rights away as parents. But they've completely overplayed their hand on this one. And it's not just Colorado parents that have woken up, it's the national voices for parental rights. It's Moms for Liberty National. It's Focus on the Family. It's all these organizations that were afraid to dip their toe in or didn't know what was happening in Colorado, but all eyes are on Colorado right now. And so obviously I'm ecstatic. I mean, this bill was truly a gift. Thank you for unifying. Thank you, Lorena Garcia and Faith Winters, for unifying so many Coloradans who ordinarily don't agree on things. This is an issue that it affects all parents. It doesn't matter where you lie on the spectrum, your rights are under attack. They are taking away your right to act in the best interest of your child, which is federal precedent. I mean, it's funny, they actually cited the Troxel case in the hearing in the House for 1312, which Troxel case is largely the basis of my parental rights lawsuit in federal court that argues parents are fit until proven guilty. They will act in the best interest of their child, and we have to assume that going into any situation. And so these legislators are just foregoing federal law, they're foregoing precedent, legal precedent, and they're actually manipulating these things that have been put in place to protect our parental rights against us. They think we're stupid. They can just say whatever they want in these hearings and we're all going to go along with it. But the whole world's paying attention on 1312 right now.
Aaron, I'm glad you brought up 1312. One thing I want to ask you is, first off, can you kind of explain some of the un unique monstrosities of this bill and how it's really going to attack parental rights? And B, I was also wondering if you could kind of tell us a little bit about some of these prime sponsors of the bill and tell us specifically if kind of a little bit about their agenda and what they're really trying to um, do with this legislation.
Yeah, well, for starters, it's being run by radical socialists. Like they're open DSA members. They are openly Marxist and intending to separate children from their families. It's pretty brazen what their agenda is with this bill, but it's multifaceted. It's not just parental rights. And let's start with the free speech issue. This redefines CADA, the Colorado Anti-Discrimination Act, for misgendering or dead naming, or even threatening to misgender or dead name will be listed as discrimination and the state can come after you. So they're essentially establishing thought crime. It's Orwellian. Like, don't even think about misgendering someone or the state can come after you. And they will. They will red tape you to death. If you're a business, they will fine you. So let's start there. This affects every single Coloradan. This is the most drastic forced speech law on a wide scale that anyone in the country has ever seen. And I've connected with organizations all over the country who went, wow, this is the worst bill we've ever seen. Colorado has truly done it. They have filed the worst bill in existence. So it's a total free speech infringement on businesses. It's any place of public accommodation. And so people understand what that means in Colorado statute. That's anywhere the public can go. So that's churches, that's private schools, that's private business. Jack the Cake Baker had better buckle up because round 3 is coming for him. Mark my words, they will absolutely try to make an example of him again on this issue. So it affects everyone, but it especially affects parents. And so it gives courts the license to declare that misgendering or dead naming your child. So just to be clear on what that means, calling your child by their birth name. Like my daughter's name is Chloe. Calling her Chloe is now coercive control or child abuse, and the court can use that against me in a custody situation to take my kids, to take her away. So of course that affects these parents who are in custody situations, and I can't stress enough, I've talked to dads in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Texas, Florida, all over the country whose exes have just fled here to Colorado to mutilate their kids because we've long established ourselves as a trans sanctuary state. Polis signed in Senate Bill 188 through 190 back in 2023, which established us as a trans sanctuary state. Then they just rammed through Senate Bill 129 at the same time under Rule 14 and Rule 16 as these two radical trans bills. And that virtually makes doctors in this state untouchable. So they can prescribe anonymously. They cannot respond to any subpoena or law or court order from any other state. Whatever has happened, if the mom can get here to Colorado, she's completely insulated, and the doctors are completely insulated. And so it's already happening here in Colorado. I've spoken to dozens of dads whose kids are being medicalized against their will here in the state, and it's always dads. There's only one situation that I know of a mom, that's Ashley up in Wyoming, in Laramie or Rock Springs, that filed a lawsuit in federal court as well. But it's always these dads. But I caution people that this also opens the door to CPS situations. So my family, for example, 4 years ago, when a mandated reporter showed up to my home, if my daughter had said, my mom's not affirming my new name, they would have removed her from my home or created a CPS case and then taken me to court and forcibly removed her. And so I'm terrified for all the parents who will have CPS weaponized against them and lose their children this way. And most parents don't know what's happened, like me. By the time I found out, she was already full blown into this trans identity. I was being forced to go along with it, or else she would kill herself. But now they're extending the suicide myth. Not only if you don't go along with it, they'll kill themselves, but also if you don't go along with it, the state will come after you and we can take your parental rights away. It's terrifying.
Extremely terrifying. I mean, it's shocking how brazen they've become. I mean, and you spelled it out well, because it's all of these bills adding up year after year with there's some opposition, there's some vocal opponents, but ultimately they've been able to get away with all of this for so long that they're just logically going to continue pushing the envelope here, and it gets more and more extreme every year. And like you said, hopefully this is the year where people have enough people wake up to this this is how extreme it's gotten, and start getting involved, start having a voice. So I know we don't have a time yet for when 1312 is going to be in the Senate committee. They rushed it through the House so quickly. But of course, I know everybody's going to be keeping eyes on that. And do you think, Erin, that the pressure, the national attention, the exposure, the pressure there, that maybe we have some more of the moderate Democrats in the legislature kind of pulling back a little bit? Do you think they're feeling the pressure on this?
100%. If we hadn't have pressured them the way we did, they would have introduced this past Monday. It would have been in committee on Tuesday or Wednesday, and it would already be on the Senate floor. So it was all the pressure that we brought that has caused them to withdraw and say, okay, we're going to wait till the heat dies down. But I cannot urge enough that the heat's not going to die down on this. The momentum is building. The pastors have engaged. The coalition against it is growing. The heat's not going to die down. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I was ready. I was watching the Senate floor all week, like, okay, they're going to drop it and we're going to be ready. We're going to be there at the Capitol to oppose it. And they're clearly holding it intentionally, which means our pressure is working. And, I've said a long time to our last point that willful ignorance and apathy are what got us here. And on most of these bills preceding this one, Coloradans just, I get it. We're busy. We're living our life. We don't have time to be on here talking about bills every week. We have to sacrifice to be able to pay attention to all the crazy legislation that's going through. They said, look over here with the gun bill and distracted everyone and tried to burn us out on Senate Bill 3. And then, okay, look over here. Now we're going to trash parental rights and your taxes. And they're just all over the place. It's a full-time job to keep track. And I get why people are not paying attention, but I do firmly believe that 1312 is the catalyst that has woken a lot of sleeping giants up. A lot of people who did not otherwise have any idea about all the laws they've passed since 2019 that this is just building upon. But I'm confident we might kill it. And if we don't kill it, if it gets presented, we're going to show up in force to testify. Mark my words, there will be hundreds of people that sign up to testify. They may even try to silence the public as a result of that, like they Rule 14 and Rule 16, the House representatives, which would be very stupid on their part. If it gets through Senate committee and goes to the floor, we might get the votes to kill it. We might be able to pressure Polis to veto it. And at the very worst case scenario, we are going to file lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit the day this gets signed into law, and they are going to wish that they had never pushed it through. I know of 6 lawsuits in the works right now already.
I love to hear that there are plans in place to attack this bill if it does get pushed through and signed by the governor. I mean, this is a phenomenal mistake if this thing gets passed through the Senate. It's already a mistake that it went through the House. I know Rep. Bradley, who's going to be joining us next. I know she was passionate against this one. A lot of people were very passionate against this one, and for very good reasons. This bill is going to be this bill is making international headlines. I just heard recently that they're even discussing this bill in Australia. That's how insane this bill from one little state in the United States is. Um, with that being said, I want to ask you about some other new about some other stuff going on locally this week. I personally live in Arvada, so Jefferson County, and we live in an absolutely nightmarish school district. Me and my wife will never put our kids in public schools. We are currently homeschooling our kids because of how horrible Jeffco schools is. You even saw Libs of TikTok come out about a month ago and call Jeffco
Worst ever.
schools worst ever. Exactly. Horrible school. If horrible school district. And if you do have kids in Jefferson County School District, get them out. That's what I would highly and highly encourage you to do. Get them out. That being said, this week we had a Board of Education meeting. There was a lot of people there. There was one guy, I believe his name's Dustin Gonzalez, if I remember correctly.
Mhm.
He had a fantastic speech, and I know he's really going through it.
Yeah.
What advice would you have for parents who are currently going through situations like Dustin is, where a bill like 1312 might even be more punitive to him than the current school or the current laws already are to somebody like Dustin Gonzalez?
Yeah, we'll give Dustin some love. Follow him on X. He's a very brave dad, and most people don't know that he gave that speech on Thursday night. Then on Friday, he went to court pro se for his custodial rights, and he lost full custody of his daughter. He's now been restricted to every other weekend, and he's not allowed to talk about her gender confusion. And the judge used that against him. They said his inability to affirm her true identity proves that mom should have custody. And that transition started in school. It started by a school counselor. They involved mom and not dad. And by the time he found out, much like my family, she was so far down the rabbit hole that every odd was stacked against him. So you hit the nail on the head. Don't put your kids in public schools. I don't believe anywhere in the state of Colorado is safe. Teller County, D49, El Paso, maybe. They've got some good school board members, but the system is so rotten from the core, and it has been for decades, and we're not going to fix it overnight. And so much of the indoctrination is subtle. Like my daughter was being given reading assignments about trans, and there was boys sleeping in the overnight bunk room in Eco Week in fifth grade, and I had no idea because they didn't tell the parents. And so they had been normalizing trans to her for so long, and it was so subtle. Like she brought the book George home, and I didn't open it because it seemed innocent, and it turns out it was all about a little boy cutting off his parts and kissing boys and wearing girls' underwear and pornography. And like my 11-year-old was assigned that as a reading assignment in English class. I had no idea. And these are the things that like what happened to us in the end was a punch in the face, and thank God, so that we could wake up and save our kids, because I was so naive. But what I discovered afterwards is like, holy cow, these school districts, there's a huge concerted effort to transition these kids secretly, to indoctrinate them with this nonsense. And they intentionally leave parents in the dark. So my best advice is just don't ever put them in. We've got great options. My daughter's in a private Christian. My middle is in a conservative classical charter, core knowledge school. And my youngest, who's 4, will never step foot in a school because they can't have him. I'm never going to subject him to any schooling situation. Homeschool is the best thing that you can do. So my number one advice is just don't put your kids in, but be vigilant. If you must, get in the classroom, make yourself known, stay on top of the teacher, email them, open everything that comes home, exercise your right to public record, see what's being said behind closed doors. That was so revealing. In my situation, I found more than I ever wanted to find. I'm still down a dark rabbit hole in the Pooter School District. It's dark and it's disgusting. And I would never encourage a parent to put their kid in any public school in Colorado. But if you must, be very, very, very involved and aware.
Right. People don't know it's happening. It is happening. Like they think, oh, it's not happening in my school district. It's definitely happening in your school district, whether you know it or not.
Yeah.
So I did share the link for our club movie in the chat. I'll put it back in there for people. You got to watch that, people. If you haven't seen it, you got to hear Erin's story, see what happened, and yeah, it's jaw dropping. Maybe it's becoming more. I'm happy that people are becoming more aware that this is happening here, and I also want to shout out. You got your Ayn Rand Atlas Shrugged there, Erin.
Oh, yep.
Awesome book. So really cool to see that. But I know, PKC has really been leading the charge to be proactive, right? Because so much of what happens at the legislature, we're on the defense, right? And don't get me wrong, there's some good bills. You're posting about a bill today that, we have representatives like Scott Bottoms, Brandi Bradley, Ken DeGraff, who are fighting, who are on the offensive all the time. But unfortunately, they're in the minority. But we talked about ballot measures. We talked about the ability of citizens here in Colorado to put something on the ballot, to be on the offense, to be proactive and try and protect our kids that way. So, Erin, do you have plans for the future? What can people kind of rally behind after the legislative session to kind of focus in the future about where we can maybe have some progress made? Maybe we can make some wins.
I love that. Thank you for asking. Real quick, if I can just shout out, there's my girl Brandi. Brandi, Ken DeGraff, Scott Bottoms, and Stephanie Luck. That's the Fantastic Four right there. They have guts and stand on principle like no one I've ever met before. And this is coming from a former Democrat who voted for Polis and Biden. But here I am fully backing these 4 representatives because they're the only ones who are showing up for these issues that affect our families in this way. They're the only ones who are running good bills to try to make anything happen in law to try to take back some ground for our families and for our kids. So huge shout out to those 4, DeGraff, Bottoms, Bradley, Luck. They are rock stars. We are so lucky to have them. But yes, Protect Kids Colorado is it's the offensive approach. We can't stop the bad bills for the most part. We can't even get amendments through on them. It is very hard to pass the good bills. Brandi knows that better than anyone. But we're so lucky to be one of 27 states that has the Citizens Ballot Initiative process. Not every state has that option. And Protect Kids Colorado has utilized that to our advantage. Last year, we ran just parents' right to know that their child's been transitioned and keeping males out of girls' single-sex sports. We even proposed a third category. Like, we don't want anyone to be left out, but men participating in women's single-sex spaces in locker rooms is not okay, and it's an 80-20 issue. So what happened to us last year is the title board was I mean, they're radical. They illegally and unconstitutionally barred us from passing. We filed 20 initiatives. We only got three of them through. One, Colorado paid $250,000 to stop us from even getting to signatures. And by the time we printed petitions, we had only 80 days to collect signatures. We had no money. We had no time. We were just some moms and dads who didn't even know what we were doing. And in about 80 days, we got over 70,000 signatures, all volunteer, which the most that's ever been completed in Colorado, all volunteer, is 20,000 in the full 6-month timeline. So we kicked ass. The people rallied behind us, and it was so cool to watch like leftist Democrats and radical feminists and the LGB community and everybody who, again, does not fundamentally disagree on much. We all agree that men aren't women, parents shouldn't be lied to, and children shouldn't be mutilated. And so we've got the backing this time around. Scott Gessler is going to be representing us at the title board. We've got a great organization that's doing our polling, our messaging, and we will absolutely be successful this time around. So we filed those on Monday. Our 3 issues are protecting kids from sex trafficking, making it a class 1 felony if you buy or sell a child for sex. And that's a prevalent issue nationwide, but we're number 10 in child sex trafficking, and it usually starts at age 14. And it's a 92% issue in Colorado. Everyone agrees we should be punishing the people who are buying and selling kids for sex. The second one is the Girls Sports Initiative. We're reviving that, but we're including private league, which has never been done in any of the 50 states. That's totally unprecedented. So about 70 to 80% of youth athletics is private league, like the Olympics is not a public organization. And so all these laws across the country, all like the Riley Gaines Acts, those don't address the private leagues. And so Jennifer Say has agreed to chair the initiative and be a proponent. And we're going to set unprecedented law here in Colorado by the will of the people. And that even here it's about a 60 plus issue. It's an 80% issue nationally. So we've got some work to do on educating Coloradans. And then the final one is just banning child sex surgeries, protecting kids from irreversible child sex wrong sex surgeries under the age of 18 in Colorado, which is common sense.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that Protect Kids Colorado is not done with their legislative efforts, particularly from a ballot initiative perspective. My question is, when it comes to local, a lot of stuff happens locally that doesn't happen on the national level, let alone the state level. What is the best way for people to get involved on the local level so that way they can help make sure that their kids, if they do, some people just have to put their kids in public schools and they're forced to deal with it. What's the best way for them to get involved and make sure that these and really hold the school boards accountable?
There are local organizations in every community, just about. And if there isn't one, start it. Moms for Liberty will hand you Moms for Liberty in a box. Brandi knows this. They will give you everything you need to start it up. There wasn't one in Dougco, so Brandi took the baton and started it herself. You've got Jeffco Kids. You've got Task Force Freedom here north. Kane, who just went viral on Libs of TikTok for reading the genderqueer book to the Poudre School District. They're a great organization that covers all of northern Colorado. So there are groups everywhere, really grassroots level, local groups who are already getting together. And it could just be 5 moms in a room drinking coffee. Start a group with your friends, get people involved and talk about what's happening. You are so much stronger together. One tactic that my parent group up here has used is public record requests. Just we each take a little piece and we start to dig into what's happening in our district, and then we collectively expose it to the public. So organize with the people who are already doing it. And if they're not, start it yourself, because you're right. We're a local control state. And so much happens at the local level, especially with our school boards. And people need to run. We have 3 open seats here in Poudre School District. We do not have any candidates yet. I get it. It's scary. It's a nasty job. I wouldn't want to do it either. But as a parent, people need to step up and protect the kids in our community from this insane ideology that our school boards are pushing. Ours is 7 radical school board members. We are completely outnumbered. We just need one good parent to get on that board and dissent to what the rest are doing. So people have got to step up and run for school board and support those who do.
Wow, well said. Yeah, 100%. I really love the idea of building that community, of getting involved, even if it's just five people or two people or three people, just start somewhere. And like you said, just being organized, getting a couple people together, splitting up some of the duties and just starting to pay attention. Because like you said, I mean, like you said at the beginning with the legislature as a whole, it's impossible to keep up with it all. It's a full-time job. So keeping track of your school district, keeping track of what's happening. We have these amazing tools with social media. We have people who are waking up, people who want to get involved. So it's as disheartening as all of this is, it does make me very optimistic. It makes me excited to think of the potential for the ballot measures for 2026, for all of these things. Now, it's going to take a lot of work, but I'm glad we're having all these conversations now, a year and a half before the next big election, so that way people can start getting organized, because there's so much work that's going to need to go into all of this from now forward. But getting organized, getting involved. And I see we got Representative Bradley joining us here. Did you want to please, thanks for joining. And did you want to add to the conversation with what Erin was saying?
Oh, real quick, I did not
Yeah,
plug
go for it.
PKC's website, protectkidscolorado.org. We're going to need about 7,000 volunteers to make this happen. 40 signatures each. That is so easy. If everyone does a little bit and takes a petition and just goes to church, go to your kid's sporting event, go stand outside of King Supers, if we all just do a little bit, it's such a massive we the people movement where everyone can get involved. And I hear all the time, like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to get involved. I know that there's a problem, but what can I do about it? I feel hopeless. And so we're just really proud to give people this hope that it's easy. You take a petition, you grab a few signatures, and you're part of the solution of correcting the ship of Colorado. And when we win on these measures, the dominoes will fall. Sorry, go
That's
ahead,
fantastic.
Brandi.
No, Erin and I are such a great tag team that we're on together. It makes me so happy. She's such a force. I hope the people of Colorado understand that we are so lucky to have her in the state. Last year, when we were doing these petitions, it is so easy. I went on a girls' trip with my friends and their kids, and we were walking around Grand Park, and my friends' little girls were going and asking people to sign for them. We don't want boys playing in girls' sports. And you should have seen how many people they got to sign. If 7-year-olds can do it, adults can certainly get people to sign these petitions. So it's going to be great. I just wanted to tell the viewers, people say, I'm going to move. We need to move. This state is gone. We're the tip of the spear. And I think that we are shedding so much light in such a dark state. There are red states that I'm ashamed of, to tell you the truth. My state of Tennessee should be passing all of these laws. This should be a no-brainer for red states, and they're not doing it. And I think Colorado is passing some good, we're not passing the legislation, but we're passing good messaging bills. And I think that there's a lot of states that are really going after the bills that we're showing up for in the state. And I think that we're going to pass some of these bills before even these red states do. And I think it's such a blessing to live in the state. And I don't think people should be fleeing the state. I think we're going to make some serious changes here. And it's because of people like Erin Lee and Rich Guggenheim and Jennifer Say and some serious warriors. Brandon, you guys, Michael, you guys like showing up for us, mommy, and serious patriots that are saying we are not going to let our state continue to go down these paths. And I am so proud of the village that we have formed. I couldn't be prouder, honestly.
Really appreciate those words, Rep Bradley. I'm so excited to see what's going on in Colorado. There's as much of bad as there is bad. There's so much good, and it's awesome to see the coalition building that's going on. I mean, look at us, the Libertarian Party. We're interviewing Republicans on a weekly basis. I mean, we're trying to build something here because at the end of the day, it's not about, oh, I've got an L next to my name when how many L legislators are there? Let's be honest. Or how many R's or a D? We are Coloradans and we see what the Democrats are doing and we see how horrific it is. So I'm so excited that we're all coming together for one common cause, and that's to make a brighter future, a more free Colorado for Coloradans. And I'm really excited, as you said, we're gonna once we really start getting activated, once we start taking those next steps after we've laid this foundational work, we're gonna see a transformational difference, and we're really gonna be a shining light for the rest of the country. And I cannot wait to see what that looks like in the next few years. I mean, I had a conversation with my pastor just this morning, and he's like, we just need to get Christians to have some balls. And I'm like, whoa, that was pretty, but it was pretty fantastic to hear. So I'm really looking forward to what's going on in Colorado. So uh, I guess I could ask both of you guys this. What is the most important thing that we need to be doing over the next few months to really start laying that foundation for so that way we can help protect our kids? What would you say we should be looking out for, and what exactly should we be doing?
Go ahead, Brandi.
Erin, you have to leave, so you go ahead.
Okay. Well, obviously, selfishly, sign up at Protect Kids Colorado. We're building the team now. We will have petitions printed in June, and we need to have teams ready to go in each county. Now, it's not they're not constitutional measures; they're just statutory, but we're still organized in all 64 counties. And so, I encourage people to go to protectkidscolorado.org, sign up to carry a petition. We'll be in touch about building the team, and we'll have it ready to go so that as soon as session is over, it's ballot initiative time. And until session is over, keep showing up. Show up at the Capitol, show up via Zoom, send emails to all of the senators. We cannot let the pressure be let up for the next, until May 8th. We've got to absolutely keep the pressure on because it's working, or 1312 would have already passed by now.
Absolutely. I would just echo that. Scott Shamblin is out there putting up posters in senators' districts, Protect Kids Colorado. If you're not signed up for to be a part of Protect Kids Colorado, CPAN, if you're not following with Brandon and Michael, the time is you cannot put your testimony or a lifelong of fighting for your children. And there are so many parents that can't afford this anymore. They are not seeing their children. And, all of these liberal progressives say, well, you're not going to jail. Take my children. That is horrific to me. I'd rather you put me in jail. I'd rather you put me in the worst jail that you could possibly think of. It is the worst thing that you could possibly do to me as a parent. It is the worst thing ever. So you either fight now or lose your children forever, because that is what they're doing. They're doing it to Dustin Gonzalez right now. They're doing it to parent after parent after parent. We have 25 active cases with CPAN right now, and the bill has not even been codified into law. They are taking your children. So you either have a Braveheart moment right now, is what I say, and you start fighting with parental groups, or you wait and let them take your children. The time is now. The line in the sand. I said, this is an act of war. It is time to step up to the plate. And, I would say, Erin, I was going to school board meetings. This is what got me into this mess. I was going to school board meetings, not because I was worried about my children, because I was worried about other people's children. I was writing a script or a speech by myself with no other people. And I started getting people's phone numbers. We guys, we got to start fighting this. And slowly but surely, I had 50 people that would start going with me. And then I ran to run office, not because I knew anything about it. God will equip you. I knew nothing about running for office. But here we need conservatives to step up to the plate. We need mom and dads that are ready to fight for children to step up to the plate. Even if I knew nothing about running for office. I knew that I wanted to fight for kids. I knew that I love our Constitution. I know that I love my country, and I know I love our state, and the state is worth saving. And so you have to run because kids need us to protect them. And Erin Lee is doing a great job. You guys are doing a great job. We need people to step up to the table. We don't need keyboard warriors. We need people that are willing to fight for the state, and we can turn the state around. But you can't do it sitting on your couch.
100% well said. Yeah, people show up, get involved, show up to town hall meetings. There's all these town hall meetings going on right now. There's local community events, meetups. We host Liberty on the Rocks in Northern Colorado, Colorado Springs, Denver. At least just get out there and network with people. Find the like-minded, liberty-minded individuals and start getting organized. I think that's definitely, I hope, something people take away from our conversation. But 1312 is getting all the headlines, right? And Erin, you had previously mentioned some of the other bills that have gone through the legislature. Can you maybe mention, 1312 wins the award for the worst bill of the year, but what are some runner-ups here? And Representative Bradley, love to get your perspective on this as well. But what are some of these other bills that people just need to be aware of? Maybe that slipped past because they didn't get the kind of headlines that 1312 did.
Well, there's a sister bill to 1312, 1309, which essentially forces taxpayers via private insurance and Medicaid coverage to pay for these elective procedures for mentally confused people who think that they're the opposite sex. So, for example, if a man who thinks he's a woman wants to get breast implants, we would all be forced to pay for it through insurance coverage. But if a woman going through breast cancer needs reconstruction, that is not guaranteed to her. Or, for example, the 12, 13, 14-year-old girls who are getting hormones, wrong sex hormones in this state, we will now be paying for that. And it also removes testosterone from Schedule 1 drug tracking. So basically, testosterone will be anonymous in this state. We'll have no data, and you won't be able to look at the existing data either. They're going to hide that as a result of 1309. So I'm calling that we're all going to pay for wrong sex hormones for children, and it will be done in secret. So that's a horrible bill. I expect that'll go to HHS, but we should be fighting that just as hard as we're fighting 1312. And that's, of course, run by Brian Titone, who himself has fake implants and also brags about his penis size publicly. So I'm not buying it. The other bill is Senate Bill 129, which, as I said, was rammed through with 1309 and 1312 and doubles us down as a sanctuary state, protects the doctors, and makes it really impossible for these detransitioners to have any course of action.
Well, and I would say Senate Bill 86 too, a continuous appropriation for abortion. Listen, we know that Amendment 79 enshrined abortion into our state constitution. No one's arguing that, but to lie to taxpayers to say that this is a continuous appropriation to fund illegals to have elective procedures, no taxpayer voted on that. We are struggling to fund basic necessities in our state. And when our tax or our insurance premiums are going to go through the roof and we're going to save money to avert births, that's ridiculous. And the speaker actually took down her ex because we put so much pressure on her. Fund a continuous appropriation and $1 million shortfall to fund the killing of babies. I don't care how you see abortion. We did not fund a continuous appropriation. It's ridiculous. And I'll just pull your eyes to one other bill, 1321, where we're going to set aside $4 million for our state to sue the federal government. We're going to sue Trump for anything that we see fit. We're going to give the governor $4 million to sue the federal government, even though he has not taken away any federal funding. We continue to push this envelope. We don't have enough money for DD waivers. We keep people on the wait list who don't have enough money for intellectual and developmental delays. And it's just atrocious. We fund hundreds of millions of dollars for illegals, and we don't have enough money on education and healthcare in this state. It's so backwards, Brandon. I have no words. The people of Colorado have got to wake up. We have single moms and dads. The commissioner of insurance just came out and said, I'm going to make people in the Western Slope pay an additional $13,000 a year to fund non-citizens, and there's nothing you can do about it. We're living in a dictatorship, and the people have got to wake up.
It's so disgusting what's going on here in Colorado. Rep. Bradley, I'm glad that you brought up what's going on with Senate Bill 86 and all the funding for Medicaid that's going to go to pay for abortions. Want to ask you about the Hyde Amendment. The Hyde Amendment in federal government, and the federal government says that no money can ever go to abortions. When it comes to Senate Bill 86, that's going to be paid for through Medicaid. Medicaid is paid on a one-to-one basis for every $1 of state funding that goes to Medicaid. That is also shared with federal funds on a one-to-one ratio. What I want to know about this is how much federal funding are we potentially going to be losing because of what's going on with Senate Bill 86? And then, Erin, I'm glad you brought up 1309. I'm also very curious with this one because you bring up programs like Medishare. I don't know how familiar you guys are with Medishare. Medishare is a Christian-backed program that basically it's essentially healthcare assistance. I'm very concerned that this is going to protect people on is going to harm people on a First Amendment basis, because these programs may not be able to survive if they want to maintain principles and potentially run the risk of being forced to provide certain assistance, because somebody might want to pull what they did to Masterpiece Cake Shop and Jack Phillips, where they want to try to harm that individual organization.
Well,
Be
the
as
people
Oh, go
of
ahead.
Colorado should be very, very concerned. HICPA, healthcare policy and financing, Medicaid is our biggest line item of the budget. We receive about $9 billion of federal funding for HICPA. And when I ran an amendment to say, you have got to clarify with the people of Colorado what you are funding as far as abortion goes, because the Hyde Amendment only allows federal funding for rape, incest, and the life of the mother for abortion. That is it. And they have scrubbed what we're getting funding for as far as abortion goes. They are not going to let us see what we get for first trimester, second trimester, or third trimester. They are not going to let us see how federal funding is handled as far as abortion goes. We're going to be in serious trouble. So when the people of Colorado see that Trump pulls our federal funding and they're all up in arms about it, is because the state legislators have decided to not be transparent as to where our federal funding is going. And I promise you, it is going to fund probably the NGOs and the people that are not being transparent as to where our federal funding is going. We receive $9 billion, and they are going to give it to NGOs like Lorena Garcia's Elephant Circle that are profiting off of these federal funds. And it's only a matter of time. You just saw in New Hampshire, the guy that just got busted, the legislator, for $37,000. She is giving $67,000 per her dad, her mom, and she's making about six figures. It's coming. It will come. And Colorado is going to pay the price for it.
I find it so interesting that that's a parent organization and she's not a parent. Just that's curious. Making six figures off the back of parental rights and protecting children. She's not a parent. She has no children.
We need a deep dive on Lorena Garcia's organizations, because it's incredibly shady what's going on.
Yeah. And I think you're right about 1309 with those medical insurance, the share programs will be affected. And I think doctors will be affected, who their free speech rights, their right to exercise their conscience, to exercise their oath to do no harm. This is absolutely going to be used to manipulate them and force them into performing these procedures. And I'll point out that one of the things Brandi really hammered hard, I hammered hard during House committee, is detransitioners. We said, okay, you're going to force us to pay for transitioners for transgender affirming surgery. What about sex affirming procedures? What about all of these thousands of young people whose healthy bodies have been mutilated? They don't realize it until 8 to 10 years later. There are no medical codes to support them. There is no correct sex procedures to help them. There is no one helping them get off the hormones, which is incredibly dangerous. It can be deadly. There's a transitioner, Matt Ray, out of Arizona, she is so crippled by just trying to get off of testosterone that she's having 100 seizures a day. She can't even live life because her body is so wrecked by just trying to get off of the transgender affirming procedure. So what about detransitioners? Obviously, that threatens their entire narrative, that someone would not be pleased with what happened to them, that there are 55,000 people in a group saying, yep, me too, I've been medically harmed. So one thing that I'm really pushing on 1309, and I assume that there will be amendments put forth, is for detransitioner care. They have just as much right to have recourse, to have codes, to have a plan, standards of care that helps them come out of transgender affirming procedures.
Well, and can I add to that? We are bothered that in African villages that they mutilate young ladies vaginally, and again, they're all up in arms. But in these cases, we're fine with healthy breasts being cut off and healthy penises being cut off. What world are all of us living in that it's okay in some instances, but we fight it tooth and nail in others? I feel like I live in the twilight zone a lot of times, honestly.
100% is the Twilight Zone. It's absolutely backwards. It makes no sense from a rational, logical perspective. And yeah, people just wake up. I mean, it's crazy to think that this is happening here in our communities. Our tax money is going towards it, and our state government is protecting these people and causing so much harm to be done to young people. There's some questions in the chat there. Who would you both see as kind of like the ringleaders or the people behind it? Obviously, you mentioned Tatone, Garcia, or who are the big names? Who are people that like I guess are the biggest leaders of this whole cult, this whole ideological cult in Colorado? Because it's important, I think, to name those names and to call these people out so that we can try and have some sort of accountability, at least at some point.
I
Oh, I
can tell you
think
from the NGO side, there's Bread and Roses, there's One Colorado, there's Out Boulder, there's Inside Out Services in Colorado Springs, PFLAG, Fort Collins spent a lot of money against me on the ballot initiative. So PFLAG, it's these NGOs that are writing these bills that are pushing them to these radical legislators to write them. So I want people to understand none of these come from the legislators themselves. They come from these radical NGOs in our state who are feeding these to the radicals to run probably with very little amendment to what these radicals have written. So there's someone behind the legislators, but I'm sure Brandi can talk to who the ringleaders are in the House and Senate.
Oh, I think Planned Parenthood, ACLU. I mean, they say, right, Erin Lee, $1 million to transition a kid over the lifetime. Follow the money. $1 million for one child. Follow the money. Elephant Circle, One Colorado, all of these people push, 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 because it's money. We are putting profit on the heads of children that have a 19-time increase of suicide. It's disgusting. It's despicable. And I hope they are all brought into the light. The 5 pediatricians, when I put their names out there and I got a letter from the speaker that I was in violation of workplace harassment and that I was doxing, and that I was told by my friend on the Democrat side that their caucus meetings were all about me and that I'm doxing people, and I received death threats. I have a criminal investigation going on about one person that posted my children's school and my address. And I said, great, armed and ready. I am not scared of these people. I am not scared. Post where my kids go to school. We've got AI technology. We've got SROs. I am well taken care of. I am not scared of the woke people. I am going to protect kids until the day I die. So
when it comes to these crazy psychos, particularly these nutbag leftists, let's just be honest, they're psychotic. What's the best way to fight the garbage? Because you can see they want to culturally bring everybody down to a point where they're, as you said, they're being incredibly violent. They're doxing. They are doing everything that they claim the right is doing. And it's a simply projection. So what is the best way for us to fight these monsters?
silence them. Don't be scared. I mean, Colorado Polls comes out with something new. I'm drinking at the Capitol. Really? I've never been arrested. I've never even gotten so much as a speeding ticket. Prove it. They have no evidence. I've gone on 2 national shows, 5 radio shows. Silence them. They have no evidence. They hate being wrong, and they have nothing. They can gaslight me all day long. I'm going nowhere. They've told me to step down from Moms for Liberty. They've told me to move back to Tennessee. Oh, I love going after them. It's so fun. They think that they're going to silence us. Erin and I are going nowhere. It is so much fun to go after them. I think they're used to like these Republicans that are just going to walk away and be quiet. Yeah, I'm not. I'm a mama bear. I've got no aspirations of like Senate or US Congress. I'm here to just make their lives miserable.
There's a great organization called Courage is a Habit. I think they're Courage Habit on X. And this is all they do. They are the masters at trolling the trolls, at turning it back around on them. And usually the argument is when someone comes at me, I just go, well, why are you a child mutilation advocate? And call out that they're a child mutilation advocate. And they never have an answer. It usually ends with them yelling, go kill yourself, and running off, like with an in-person altercation or online. They get angry and storm off. When you just turn the truth on them, like, well, why are you advocating for child mutilation? And just call them out with logic. So I encourage people to follow Courage Habit. They're the masters of trolling the trolls.
Erin is
Nice. No,
nicer.
that's
I usually tag retard finder and say I found one.
And I think it's no two great points, right? Because yeah, silence them, but we can't be silent ourselves, right? Because like you're saying, Representative Bradley, that people in the past, are so easy to back down, right? People are so easy to quiet; they don't want to offend anybody, and especially these last, decade, 20 years plus, if it's anything to do with the LGBT whatever stuff, people are like walking on eggshells. They're like, oh, we got to be tolerant, we got to be this and that, and they've weaponized that against us. They've weaponized the tolerance to say, hey, yeah, you can't say anything. We're going to take this so extreme and so insane, but people are scared to say anything about it because they've been trained. They've been trained for decades now to walk on those eggshells and to really hold back. So I think that's so important is people being bold, people speaking out. And we have X, we have other platforms out there that we didn't necessarily have even just a few years ago, where we'd get shut down and people get banned if they spoke out and said the wrong thing and they're bullying or whatever. So, and that's very makes me really positive, or makes me really optimistic in terms of the future, in terms of the outspokenness, the people's ability to be bold, and then yeah, really trying to silence them and shut them down because they don't have strong arguments. They're doing bad things. They're promoting bad things. We can't be afraid to say that. So, um, what else do we need to be aware of in terms of what's happening at the legislature? And this question is more for you, Representative Bradley. We talked about the gun bills. We've talked about the gender stuff. What else is sneaking past that maybe people aren't seeing?
The immigration bill, right? I mean, we've got a horrible immigration bill coming up that we want to be a sanctuary state. No, we don't. No, the people don't. The people don't want to be a sanctuary state. We have seen we're the third least safe state. We're the fourth highest in rape. We're the eighth most violent state. We're the 10th highest in trafficking. The people of Colorado don't want this anymore. We have 24% of restaurants closing just in Denver. The people are tired of it. I mean, the Democrats come on and Julie McCluskey, oh, the budget's great. Colorado's great. It's a beautiful place to live. No, it's not. Businesses are fleeing. We're the sixth most regulated state. We're tired of it. And you come forth with price gouging. Really? No. We are tired of Democrat policies, and you can only blame one party. Listen, it is not my party that is promoting these horrific ideologies. And the answer to this is let's trans kids. Let's pay for transitioning. Let's pay for taxpayer funded abortion. This is not, people just want to afford their groceries and property taxes and take their kids to school and their kids be safe. And, they want the Colorado that they grew up in, and that's what they want. And that's what they need. And that's not what they're getting. So we have to say no. So the immigration bill, this horrific $4 million we're going to set aside instead of paying medical providers like myself to treat patients and make insurance more affordable, make housing more affordable. And so, it's more of what we continue to get. Michael Bennet now running for governor. Give me a break. We've got to make some changes in Colorado. So.
I'm glad you brought up Michael Bennet.
I'm sorry.
You're good. We have a lot of we've got, before Bennett we had Polis come in. Polis has been governor. He'll be governor for 8 years, and before that Hickenlooper. We have a lot of Washington and not Hickenlooper, but Bennett in particular. He is a creature of the swamp for all intents and purposes. He grew up in Washington. His dad was Washington swamp creature. His brother is Washington swamp creature. If Bennett gets into the gubernatorial seat in 2026, what does that mean for the future of Colorado?
I'll just say he's a Soros-funded globalist. So more globalist agenda, more Marxism, more communism.
Well, and I think that they will put Polis in his seat, is what we're hearing. So Bennett wins, they put Polis in his seat.
That's rough. That's such a horrible thing. So, we talked about 2026 coming up. We talked about all the things that people can do to get involved, and really starting at that local community level, and finding other people in your districts, in your Senate district, your House district, your city council, and really getting involved there. And I think that is so key in getting this message out there. So kind of a final question for you, Erin. What would you say to skeptical parents? What is your 30-second elevator speech out there? So say, you're at the grocery store, you're talking to a neighbor, maybe somebody who's watching now. How do I bring this conversation up? Like, what's an easy way to start this conversation with somebody else and kind of show them what's happening in a way that maybe can be persuasive and in a way that you can kind of just get the information to them. How would you recommend people do that?
I encourage people to start with the statistics. Like, hey, can you believe what's happening in Colorado schools? 80% of kids cannot read or do math at grade level. Like, we don't even need to talk about the social issues. Let's just start with the fact that 80% of kids cannot read or write, that our schools are failing them academically. And that's usually where I encourage parents to start the conversation. And then you can, if they're receptive, dig into, well, it's probably because they're so busy pushing social emotional learning and transgenderism and gender and sexuality clubs and really dig into what the schools are doing. But start with the fact that our kids are failing academically.
Awesome. Well said for sure.
And similarly, I guess my question is with less than a month of legislative session to go, what I know we talked about some of the bills that we need to look out for, but is there anything else that we need to be looking out for? Any kind of signs that we should be looking out from these legislators that might be trying to sneak something through nefariously that we might not necessarily know about? And is there anything that we're hearing about? Are there any rumors running around the Capitol right now that they might be trying to sneak some sort of last minute legislation through? I know the last 2 years we've had property tax legislation that got snuck through at the very last minute. So I'm kind of curious, what exactly should we be looking for? Is it going to be something regarding the trans agenda? Is it going to be more property tax legislation, which we were promised would not happen? I mean, I just want to know what exactly we need to be keeping our eyes out for.
Oh, your guess is as good as mine. There will be something, and I promise you, I've got you guys on speed dial. I will totally let you guys know. I mean, there will be something. I mean, it's going to get worse before it gets better, unfortunately, but you have fighters down there that are willing to fight and willing to get you guys. You'll be the first to know. I will blast it as soon as I know what is going to happen. There will be something. They will be write something on the House floor with 2 days ago, and they will be jamming it through on the people of Colorado with leaving them no room to testify in the people's house. So just be prepared. Something will be coming.
I'd love to, if they try to pull this crap, I'd love to see a walkout or something like what we saw 2 years ago. Because this is absolute garbage. They try to sneak this through. They don't care about the people. You could see what they're doing with Tabor. You could see what they're doing with this ballot initiative measure that they're trying to shove through on us. So they don't. They are just showing Coloradans that they actually do not care.
Except Colorado's paying attention now.
Yes.
2 weeks ago, they weren't. But a lot of people who weren't paying attention are paying attention now. So I dare them to try to sneak something through. It's not going to go like it did 2 years ago. And I'll just real quick highlight some good legislation. Ken DeGraff is running a House concurrent resolution on 25-1003. And that's just it's really smart. It's just a constitutional measure to insert within all persons' inalienable rights that they have a right to guide the care, education, and upbringing of their children. It's a human right. He's not even classifying it as a parental right. All humans have a right to raise their own kids. And so really that would, because it's a constitutional measure, that would supersede a lot of the nonsense that will be passed through 1312. So for all those who are really angry about 1312, and you should be revved up. We'll channel that into this good legislation that, again, 3 weeks ago would have had no chance of passing, but landscape's a little bit different when it comes to parental rights than it was 3 weeks ago because they tried to ram through 1312. So I encourage people to get behind the good legislation too. That's the last one that I know of, Brandi, that's filed on our side. But that's the 21st in State Veterans Affairs House Committee, Monday the 21st.
Well, and that room should be full. And Erin, you have another bill that you would like to kind of put the spotlight on, I believe.
284. Yeah.
Yes.
284 is bad. That is, Lundin put his name on it, and it's being lobbied by the YMCA and the Boy Scouts. But if you read it. It's a 2-page bill. It is through and through pushing mental health NGOs into all schools. They explicitly write in charters. So they're trying to strip the autonomy of charter schools. And like my kid goes to a charter because I know the GSAs can't get in because they have a strategic plan for qualifying extracurriculars. And this would blow the lid off of that. It would force the GSAs into the charter schools, and it would force the FCAs, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, or any org that is not willing to walk the gender ideology religion of call that man a woman. It would force them out of all schools. So it's a total attack on free speech. It's attack on these Christian organizations, and it's attack on the autonomy of charter schools to not have these mental health NGOs infiltrate. It's really bad. People should email their senators right now.
Senate Bill 285, Senate Bill 25-284. Youth service organizations engagement on school campuses.
That's the one. Sounds good at face value. It is not. It is an egregious bill. Every line of it is nonsense.
Exum, who is in the spotlight, he's a little bit in the hot seat right now. He is a prime sponsor on this one, so this is a very, very poor choice for him to sign up. Bird, who's another person who can be pushed out, she is a rep as well as Matthew Martinez. So very big mistake in my opinion on behalf of Exum and Bird.
I agree. I think we might kill it before it even gets to, I mean, we're really applying the pressure behind the scenes, but people should be aware that it's a total attack on, especially on charter schools. And the charters are
Wow.
not happy about it.
Wow, that's wild.
There's another one, you guys, I forgot to mention, that's being heard in state affairs. It is Senate Bill 1. That is, the bill creates the Colorado Voting Acts. And in one of the sections, it talks about an aggrieved individual or organization may file a civil suit alleging voter suppression, voter dilution, or any unlawful voting prerequisite based on gender identity, gender expression, or sexual orientation. The Attorney General may investigate potential violations of the act and may file suit to enforce the act or may intervene in an aggrieved individuals or organization's civil suit.
Wow, that is crazy. Yeah, I've been keeping
And
an
it
eye on
is.
that one, but I didn't realize there was the gender stuff in there. And that's what's so interesting too. And that's kind of why we do part of the reason we do these live streams every week during the session is because there's so many of these bills that sneak something through. Like it's not obvious. You got to kind of dig in. And so thankful that we have, Erin, we have Representative Bradley, we have all these people out there who are, digging in because there's so much and it's crazy. It's like the old Washington story, it's like, oh, it's the love and puppies bill, but it actually requires, everybody to give up their cars or something like that. You know what I mean? It's like so nefarious how they pull these little tricks and scams on us. So we do that every week, try and get people engaged, informed, and hopefully give people some information that they're not getting anywhere else because the media is not talking about this stuff. Thankfully, we do have social media. I know I said that a few times now, but it can't under really sell the value that we have with X and other platforms out there. So really appreciate you both joining us tonight. I know you're both busy but what are some of your final thoughts out there? Erin, you want to go first?
Yeah, I always end with just talk about it. The most impactful thing anyone can do, it's not emailing, it's not showing up, it's talking about it within your own sphere of influence. That's where we start. We have to educate our fellow Coloradans about what's happening. So be sure that you're having conversations with those people around you. That's step one.
I'm positive about where Colorado is headed. Erin talks to me. Sometimes I'm really down the valley, she'll tell you, and sometimes I'm high on the mountain. It's been a very tough session. It has been full of a lot of ups and downs, but I am truly positive about the state. I would have left. I would have left a long time ago, but I definitely feel very called to stay here. I'm surrounded by amazing people like you guys and Erin and Rich and people who feel very led to fight. And I just think that things like this, these Zooms, are going to continue to pull people in. There's a lot of really amazing people fighting for our state and for our children. And we'll continue to pull more patriots and more fantastic people in to lead the charge. And I just think we're tip of the spear, and it's going to just continue to be amazing things from here. And the country will look at Colorado and be like, wow, there are some truly amazing people that change the state, and I'm blessed to be a part of it. So along for the ride.
We're grateful
Awesome.
to have you guys. We're so grateful for you guys fighting down at the legislature, down at in our communities and really raising awareness for what is going on. So we're going to win. It's not a matter of if, but when. They took it over through the blueprint. We can blueprint them back. So I cannot wait to see what happens when they are freaking out, just like we saw in 2016 and 2024, and we're going to see that locally one day. And I'm thrilled to be a part of that.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much, both of you, and Representative Bradley as well, just down at the legislature in the swamp in Mordor, in the dark, dark place down there, and to be so passionate, to be so outspoken, and to be so unshakable, because it's so unfortunate. I just got to say that unfortunately, there are some legislators that I had higher hopes for. This last year, and it seems like they just get weak kneed and their spine falls out of out of them somewhere down there underneath that gold dome. It has that effect on people somehow, but thankfully, we have you down there fighting, who's gonna get up there, and you're gonna say what you need to say, and not let anybody stop you. So I do appreciate that, and I know the people of Colorado really appreciate that as well, because we need that strong leadership. We need somebody who's going to stand up and not back down like so many other legislators, unfortunately.
I appreciate it, you guys. I will keep you posted on the next 20 days. If I hear anything, you'll be some of the first to know. So thank you so much for getting the word out. We couldn't do it by ourselves.
You guys are awesome.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, really appreciate you taking the time. Keep us updated, like you said, and yeah, thank you both. We'll let you go and get back to your families and get back to getting ready for another busy week down there. So thank you so much.
Thanks,
Appreciate
guys.
it.
Guys.
Perfect. But viewers out there, don't go anywhere yet. We have a lot more to talk about. This is an action-packed, jam-packed, live stream tonight. There's so much more to talk about. So don't go anywhere. You're going to be one of the most informed people in our state if you stick around and hear about some of the bills. But first, Michael, any thoughts there on our guest tonight?
That was fantastic. That was that was really something to talk to both of them. I mean, especially because we got to talk to Erin. Never talked to Erin before. We've talked to Rep Bradley in the past, and she was phenomenal last time, and she was just as fantastic this time as well. So, and then the fact that we got to talk to them both together, that was real. That was really cool to see as well.
Yeah, it was really exciting. I did an interview with Erin Lee. Gosh, it must have been 2 years ago now or whatever. It was right as our art club movie had come out, like to try and get some publicity on that or some more people seeing it. And it was like I couldn't believe it. It was like one of those things that's like, oh my gosh, this is all real. This is happening. Like I believe it, but part of me doesn't want to believe it, right? It's like we don't want to believe these things, but yeah. So, but let's jump into it. You ready to jump back in, Michael?
Absolutely, I'm excited to see what they're gonna do to our try to do to our state over the next week.
Perfect. So let me pull back up the screen here and we'll jump back in, folks. We got more to talk about. Yeah, but wait, there's more. It's like a late night infomercial, folks. You're getting a big bang for your buck here tonight. So this is all recorded. It'll stay on YouTube for, unless they ban it or whatever, but they'll stay on YouTube. So feel free to share this out there, come back to this information. All the previous weeks are on there. But yeah, we got we talked about House Bill 1327, folks. This is one of the worst bills of the week, one of our worst bills of the year, realistically speaking. I mean, like honestly speaking, attacking our right to petition, attacking the democracy that we're supposed to live under, according to all of these legislators. So please, people, if there's just one bill you can speak on this week, focus on, and unless one of these other gender bills all of a sudden pops up, because that's what they're going to do. Like Jody was saying in the chat earlier, they're going to sneak something in, throw it on there at the last minute. But if you can speak on any bill this week, folks, get on 1327. That's coming up here on Monday, tomorrow at 1:30 p.m. You can do it over Zoom. You can do it remotely. So please, folks, any final thoughts on this bill, Michael, before we move on?
At this point, I mean, I think we've pretty much covered this one pretty well. If you can get down to the Capitol tomorrow, please do. This is another terrible bill that we need to do our best to fight. There's so many bad bills out there. 691 bills have already been introduced, as we saw at the start of the live stream. But we've got, uh, but if you can get out there, highly encourage you to get down to the Capitol tomorrow.
100%, 100%. So let's move on from that committee hearing, folks. Let's jump over to another committee hearing. This one's interesting here. So, of course, there's this war on vehicles. There's this war on towing companies. We saw this last year, if people remember that. They're really going after regulating every aspect of our society. These little busybodies, these legislators, these tyrants want to control every aspect of our lives. One of the bad bills that we're seeing this year is House as another regulatory bill, of course, in the House Transportation and Energy Committee, Senate Committee, excuse me, Senate Committee Room 352 at 1:30 p.m. House Bill 1117, Vehicle Immobilization Company Regulation. So I don't know about you guys, but parking is terrible down in Denver. Parking is bad in so many places, and there's people who park illegally. There's people who park wrong. There's people who shouldn't be doing what they're doing. But of course, our legislators want to stand up for those people who are breaking the law. They want to stand up for those people who are maybe not doing what they should be and blocking up traffic. So House Bill 1117 will amend the statutes requiring to permit a permit to boot a vehicle to broaden the permit requirement. So any application without the appropriate consent of a device intended to prevent the normal operation of a vehicle. So you'll have to have a permit, folks, if you want to immobilize a vehicle there, and you have all of these new restrictions and regulations, and so not only you're permitted, but I just got to think, these businesses in downtown Denver are struggling, like Representative Bradley was saying, 24% of them are closing, and you have these people who own these properties who want to be able to tow vehicles and get them out of there, right? Look how long these regulations are. This is still the bill summary, folks. I've been scrolling down this whole time. Scroll back up here. But they want to basically, so imagine now there's a car is parked illegally. Maybe they got expired, whatever. There's a stolen car, whatever. And then they want to put a boot on it. They want to do this. They want to do that. And well, they're not going to be able to because of all these new regulations and restrictions. So, it's just making life a little bit more difficult for property owners, for business owners, for people who want to offer parking to their customers. Any thoughts on this one, Michael?
No, I agree. This is just another attack on private businesses, and you should not be surprised from the four prime sponsors, Weissman's Garbage, the Senadora in her ridiculous cowboy hat, Bootlicker, and then Junie Joseph. I mean, Boulder, Bootlicker, Senadora, and Weissman. I mean, you're not gonna run into you're not gonna run into anything that's going to be somewhat pro liberty, especially from a market perspective from these individuals. So I'm not surprised that they're trying to attack individual. I'm just not surprised that these individuals are trying to attack another industry. And it's going to end up resulting in less traffic. And when you think about the anti-vehicle agenda, this is just going to make it even worse to park in metro areas.
100%. You wonder if that's maybe the goal. So bad
Hmm.
stuff, folks. That one's going to be heard there on Monday in the Senate and Transportation and Energy Committee there. So interesting bill there, folks. Let's jump over to Tuesday. We're going to fly through some of these here because we're getting late. But this is the House Judiciary Committee meeting Tuesday, April 15th at 1:30 p.m. Three bills that we wanted to highlight. Of course, House Judiciary is where the criminal justice legislation goes through. So all the soft on crime policies are going to see their day in the House Judiciary Committee and the Senate Judiciary Committee. So it's always something to pay attention to if you want to try and do something about crime, or as in the case of these legislators, here we go. Some of the worst names down there. They want to go after landlords. Of course, the war on landlords, the war on property owners continues, and this bill has been amended. Wanted to bring it up again. It's a bill we've been talking about since it came up initially. But basically, just quickly, I want to just show people what's changed in this bill. This is Senate Bill 20. The bill allows a person to access a suppressed court record if that person affirms that they are accessing the record on behalf of the Attorney General for the purpose of investigating any violation of state law that the Attorney General may enforce. So we're giving the Attorney General more power, of course. This was a bill to give the Attorney General power to enforce landlord and tenant disputes, to get the heavy hand of the state involved. And now, of course, the Attorney General will be able to get giving people the ability to get suppressed court records on the behalf of the Attorney General there. And then this bill also clarifies the Attorney General has the power to initiate and bring civil and criminal actions to enforce certain state landlord tenant laws, and that these actions must be initiated and brought within the existing appropriations. So the Attorney General is going to have more power to get involved in all these disputes, to sue landlords, to sue property owners. So there you go, folks. And then the sections 4 and 5 has also been amended. It says it also creates requirements related to a county, city, and county or municipality retaining a private attorney for initiating or bringing these civil suits. So nonetheless, folks, they shortened it from 180 days to 90 days as well. When you see these strike throughs, when you see a italics, you know that that's an amendment to the bill or a change to the bill, or potentially a change to law if you're looking at the bill itself. But yeah, of course, they're going after landlords. Look at this. They crossed out owner, so they're not even concerned with the owner. They're just concerned with the landlord. People like Javier Marbury hates landlords. They're going to do everything they can to get rid of private property in terms of being used as rentals and try and force these state schemes. So another bad bill. Any thoughts on this one, Michael?
I just am looking forward to a Javier Milei style takeover of Colorado, where we can absolutely destroy the war on landlords. Because if you look at the bill, the only difference between the last bill and this bill is they swap out Junie Joseph for Mandy Lindsay, another terrible Democrat that's highly progressive that wants to strip the or that wants to attack the housing market.
Definitely. So moving on, also in the House Judiciary Committee here, offender release from custody, of course, right? So this one's interesting here, but they're going to let people out of jail a little bit easier. And don't get me wrong, sometimes that's justified. Don't get me wrong, but nonetheless, they want to create all these new exceptions, all these new rules in which they can let people out. So people can read through this bill. Not going to spend a ton of time on it. We'll just briefly look at the fiscal note. There's a lot to it, but the bill allows a defendant released on bail to stay overnight in jail to facilitate a connection to a service provider, makes changes to special needs parole within Department of Corrections outlined below. So this bill has been amended quite a bit, but basically, yeah, they're changing all these definitions and this and that of people with age, people with different or illnesses and things like that. So then they could potentially get them out on parole sooner. Don't get me wrong, there's probably some good stuff in here, but it's something to be paying attention to, folks, with all of these soft on crime policies where they could potentially let these people out of jail just a little bit sooner there. So just wanted to bring this up. And of course, we got little Matt Soper there, who's really a Democrat in disguise down at the state capitol, if you ask me. But any thoughts on this one, Michael, before we move on?
No, I mean I don't have too many thoughts on this one, really. Yeah, if you can get down to the Capitol and testify on this one, that'd be fantastic.
It'd be interesting to even get more information on it here. But let's in the same committee, folks. So this is another one: enforce insurer compliance requests for insurance policy. So don't get me wrong, no, not a big fan of insurance companies, as most people are not. But this does, of course, interfere with the insurance companies and puts new requirements on them, puts new restrictions on them. And what does that mean? Well, it's going to increase their costs. So people wonder why insurance is so expensive in Colorado. It's because of bills like 1322. It's these legislators getting involved and saying, now all of a sudden you, Mr. Insurance Company, you have to have all these new rules and you have to have all these respond to all these requests and you have to do this, you have to do that. Maybe you have to hire another employee. Well, you got to make up that cost, and don't give me, and if you don't do what we tell you to do, you're going to get a civil liability and potentially get a $50 per day fine. So, not terrible the intent behind the law in terms of having policyholders get a certified copy of their insurance policy. I mean, that's not the end, that's not the worst thing ever, but having the state government get involved in this and try and regulate that instead of the free market, where insurance companies could potentially offer different services and compete against each other, but this market is so heavily regulated, it is bad news. Any thoughts on this, Michael?
No, I completely agree. I mean, insurance is so regulated that it makes it more expensive and more difficult for insurance companies to do business, and that's going to be at the expense of the policy owner. We just saw just this week when we were down testifying on the Capitol against the Tabor bill or the proposed Tabor lawsuit. There was a bill that was going to propose two additional enterprises on homeowners insurance, which is just going to jack up the price. In the meantime, they're going to tell people that it's going to reduce costs of policies. In the meantime, they're just going to force a lot more people who already can't afford to live in Colorado to repair their roofs. Or replace their roofs, which is going to cost them thousands and thousands of dollars. And if they do that through their insurance company, get an insurance claim, guess what? That's going to raise their premium. So it's a no-win position. We're seeing stuff like this happen all the time. There's a war on insurance, and it needs to be defeated.
Definitely. So let's move on from the Judiciary Committee. Let's move over to the Senate Finance Committee also on Tuesday, April 15th. So, folks, we got some more bills we're covering. These are bills being heard this week. So they're still going through the process. You can speak out, you can have a voice, you can reach out to the committee members. But of course, they got to update the food establishment inspection fees. So, of course, everything's getting more expensive. Restaurants are closing left and right, but now they're going to have more fees put upon them. So, Senate Bill 285 is going to update the fee schedule for fees paid by retail food establishments. So, of course, that means additional charges, additional costs to the tune of increasing state revenue by $160,000 this coming fiscal year, and then $500,000 in fiscal year 26, $700,000 in fiscal year 27. So that's just money being pulled out of the economy and given to the state government for bad purposes, money that these restaurants are not necessarily going to be able to make up without increasing their costs, right? So they're going to basically say all these licenses, remodeling plans, equipment reviews, all these things that these food operators, these food businesses have to pay for already. Well, they're going to go up by 25% starting January 2026, and then another 20% in 27 and 28, and keep going up and up and up from there. So it might not seem like a lot, folks, don't get me wrong, but when you start adding it up together, it definitely adds up. These restaurants are already totally to the limit, and unfortunately, we see more and more things where, yeah, they need to keep more and more of their money. So totally unnecessary. This is, people think the proper role of government maybe is to regulate food industries. I would disagree with that. I don't think it's necessary, but unfortunately, we have bills like this that are only going to increase those costs, increase those burdens, and of course, get more money. So, any thoughts, Michael?
I know you earlier when we were talking to Bradley and Erin Lee, you briefly mentioned the all the businesses down in the restaurants that are closing. I think you said 25% of Denver restaurants are closing right now. This is just only going to help increase the percentage of businesses that are going to close downtown, especially. And the same thing is it's also going to spur the same exact thing throughout the rest of the state. I mean, the more and more, as you said, the more and more fees you put on a business, the harder it is to run your business. So,
Yep.
terrible bill.
Yep, definitely. Businesses are closing left and right. Also in the same finance committee, the Senate Finance Committee, is House Bill 1209. This is the big marijuana bill. It's the big one this year that's going to change a lot of how licensed marijuana businesses in Colorado operate. So, some good stuff, some bad stuff. Don't really want to get into all the details here, but for people who are interested, check this out. People who are in the industry, check it out. We definitely need to deregulate that industry. It's been going on long enough. So there is some good stuff in this bill, but there's also some bad stuff, of course, as well. But hopefully this means that we will see some loosening of these laws, like we need to see loosening of the alcohol laws as well, if you ask me there. Now, this is the part that makes me upset, because this is the part they were going to add. That was the best part of the bill, was the amount of marijuana that may be sold in a single transaction at a retail marijuana store is raised from 1 ounce to 2 ounces, or its equivalent in retail marijuana products. As you can see, they amended the bill to strip that out of it. So the little carrot they were dangling in front of the industry, in front of the people who are activists in this community, they just took that away, of course. But I'm sure they've already gotten support by getting it through the House. So these bills, you might think they're a good bill until it actually makes it all the way through the process, it could change. We saw that with Senate Bill 3. We see this with 1209. We see this with other bills where they pull the rug out from under the supporters of the bill and then make those changes at the last minute. So bad news. But any thoughts on this one, Michael?
No, I think you made a great point. Right now, the marijuana industry is absolutely struggling, and that was one of the best portions, as you said, that's the best part of the bill. They were going to deregulate some of the, so that way there could be more money made by these marijuana businesses, and if they can't even sell somebody 2 ounces anymore, then that's just going to continue to reduce the ability of money that these companies are going to make, which in turn, a lot of these companies have families, and they're not going to be able to provide as well as they would have been able to if not. It's preventing these companies from being able to survive. So, very disappointing to see that they made this bill worse.
Definitely. And I mean, there's just so many restrictions and so many regulations. It's just, yeah. So, anyways, let's move on here to another one here. So, this is on Tuesday in the Senate State Veterans and Military Affairs Committee. In my mind, this is the second worst bill of the week, House Bill 1225. Now, it has made it all the way through the House. Unfortunately, not too surprising there because the House is definitely the more radical, just slightly more radical than the Senate, as bad as that is. But Freedom from Intimidation and Elections Act. And this is one of those examples of like, oh, this sounds great. We shouldn't be intimidated when we vote. Well, the whole idea behind this bill, folks, is to try and make it so that people should not be carrying firearms at all. They want to shift the culture. Little Wormwood, Woodrow, Valesco, Henriksen. Henriksen is definitely on the target list for 26, when most likely seats to flip in 2026. Of course, they want to say that any individual who carries a visible firearm, imitation firearm, or toy firearm. So I think it was Catching from RMGO had a little water gun down there, if I'm not mistaken, during the House hearing. You have a water gun on you and you interact with and you're interacting with anybody who is doing a election related activity, which includes vote counting, canvassing, election certification, any of that kind of stuff. They're urging or aiding an individual to vote or attempt to vote. So maybe they're at your door. I think that was one of the points RMGO was making. They come to your door and you got a water gun. Well, then you are presumed, in the absence of any affirmative showing to the contrary, to have engaged in intimidation. So you're guilty until proven innocent. You're engaged in intimidation prohibited by the bill. And they could sick the Secretary of State and the Attorney General on you because you had a firearm. That's entirely the point of this bill, is to try and restrict gun ownership and doing it every way they can. I mean, this is totally unconstitutional in my mind. But House Bill 1225, horrible, horrible bill. Any thoughts on this one, Michael?
Not only is this a massive First Amendment violation, but when you look at one of the prime sponsors of this bill, it's Nick Henriksen, and Henriksen is another one of those people that's in a little bit of the hot seat come 2026. So we need to make sure that we remember this one, regardless of what happens. Hopefully, this thing gets killed, but if it does not get killed, make sure to let everybody know that he was coming for not only your First Amendment, but your Second Amendment rights in one fell swoop with this bill.
Yeah, and he did vote yes on Senate Bill 3 on third reading, not on second reading, but on third reading when it went back to the Senate. Actually, when it went back to the Senate after the amendments in the House, he did vote yes on it. So bad news there. But yeah, the presumption that an individual who's not law enforcement, who carries a real or imitation firearm, is engaged in prohibited intimidation just by merely having a firearm. And that's their goal, folks, is to totally criminalize firearm ownership. And this is a sneaky way to do it. I mean, these people deserve to be run out of our state. They don't deserve your respect. They do not deserve kind words. Um, so House Bill 1225, bad news, folks. The second worst bill of the week, I would say. Let's move on to Wednesday. Three interesting bills here. House Bill 1112, local authorities enforce vehicle registration. So we got some people there. Now we got Senator Frizzell on there, and she's mostly good. I just wanted to bring this up. I know people are on social media all the time complaining about how there's expired tags and, people, and I get it. You're paying for your tags. You're trying to do the right thing. And you see all these people driving around with expired tags and not following it. But of course, this bill would authorize local authorities to enforce the requirement that a vehicle, trailer, semi-trailer, or motor vehicle be registered. So yeah, it's just basically setting more restrictions on people and trying to go after them for this failure to register. Don't get me wrong, I'm not, a fan of people who are necessarily flaunting the system, but at the same time, we're so over criminalized, we're so overtaxed. I think these vehicle fees, these taxes they charge us with every year just to drive our own property on roads we're paying taxes on is pretty ridiculous. So not the big fan of this one. What do you think, Michael?
It shows you that they don't care about actual violent crime, but if it comes to your money, they just want to take it from you, and if you don't, they want to lock you in a cage essentially, and punish you as much as they possibly can. These people are absolute scumbags and trash, and they need to be held accountable electorally for this when it comes to 2026.
100%, 100%. Well, let's move on because it's getting late here. I just want to bring up Senate Bill 286. Of course, they're always going after the oil and gas industry. So this bill, petroleum products, fees and penalties. So they're going to address how this money can be used, where it's going to go. So don't get me wrong, there's maybe some good stuff in here where they want to use the money they're already collecting in a different way. But nonetheless, anything oil and gas definitely makes my alarm bells go off because they've been so hostile towards the industry, shutting it down. The state's actually losing tons of money on severance taxes because of the attacks on oil and gas in recent years. So just wanted to bring this up for people out there in the oil and gas community, something to pay attention to. There's not even a fiscal note on this bill yet. This bill is very, very fresh. Just jumped into the legislature here on the 9th, so less than just 4 days ago. So don't have a lot of information on it, but nonetheless, interesting stuff there. Any thoughts, Michael?
Good news is there's no prime sponsor yet, but there very well could be with something like this. They keep on trying to attack oil and gas, and we are already the most regulated oil and gas state in the country. So, another terrible bill. They are not going to stop until one of our um, most important resources is no longer available for Coloradans to make money on.
Yeah, 100%. If there's any bill about petroleum products fees and penalties, it should be to get rid of those fees and lower the penalties. But nonetheless, there we go, folks. Here's the big one that's made national headlines. Another bill that makes Colorado a laughing stock, House Bill 1277, increasing transparency impact of fuel products. So this is where basically that gas pumps would be required to have this warning label on them. Use of this product releases air pollutants and greenhouse gases known by the state of Colorado to be linked to significant health impacts and global heating, respectively pursuant to blah, 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 blah. Tampering with this label is a violation of this, blah, 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 blah. You know, there might need to be some new stickers. I know people remember the Biden I did that stickers. Maybe there needs to be some new stickers once this becomes a thing there. But, and then of course, the retailers, these gas station employees are going to be responsible for this. That they have 45 days after receiving a notice of their violations. If somebody tears up the sticker on there. They have 45 days to get it back in there. I mean, it's stupid. It's absolutely ridiculous, Bill. Any thoughts on this one, Michael?
No, it reminds me of the Valdez bill from a little while back where they wanted us to where they're going to force Colorado to put a stupid uh, label on gas stoves. Absolutely absurd. It's a 2-for-1. It's a virtue signal as well as a guilt trip for people who want to use anything that's oil and gas related.
Yeah, 100%. So this bill, folks, is being heard this Wednesday in the Senate Transportation and Energy Committee. It's already made its way all through the House, as you can see here when you click into bill history, and now is in the Senate for the first time. So I hope it gets the proper ridicule and scorn that it deserves. I hope that these bill sponsors should be embarrassed to be wasting the taxpayer time. I know we were at the Tabor committee hearing, and Natalie had brought up the point that just to get a bill introduced is like $10,000 in terms of taxpayer costs because I mean these are the costs that are already built into the system, don't get me wrong, but the time of the legislative council staff, the web stuff, I mean everything that goes into putting a bill through the legislature, there's a cost to it, right? I mean the personnel, the tax money has to be used to make all this all happen. So bad news. Wanted to bring up this last bill of the week being heard in committee this week, and that's House Bill 1244, the Welcome Reception and Integration Grant Program. We talked about this one months ago, probably now, but of course, they want to use our tax money and give it to more illegal immigrants. So because there's less illegal immigrants, and they've been doing this for years, folks, don't get me wrong, they've been doing this for years, but now that there's less illegal immigrants coming into the country because our border is being secured, they want to expand it to not just within the last 1 year, which is what the bill had. It was within the past year for this money, for this taxpayer money to go to. But now it'll be 3 years. But guess what? It's not the state government giving this money out directly. They're giving community-based organizations. There's your NGOs, there's your nonprofits. Here's the whole system, folks, and here's how it works. Where basically all of this money that the taxpayers are already fronting up. There's no new fiscal note on this because that money was already allocated in a previous bill. But all of that money that they were giving to these NGOs and nonprofits, they just want to expand the pool of who they can give this to. So absolutely crazy. Horrible stuff. Any thoughts on this one, Michael?
No, I agree. I mean, I think you've pretty much summed it up well. A bunch of psychopaths that don't actually care about Colorado but want to virtue signal at our expense are running this little bill, and they want to expand it and just spend more and more of our money.
110%, folks. So those are the bills being heard this week in committee, but we are going to have a little lightning round here. We're going to give you some updates on the important bills we've been tracking all year. So this is the big bills, of the legislative session that aren't necessarily being heard this week, but are probably the bills you've heard in the headlines, bills you've heard around. So we'll just fly through these here real quick. You want to trade off every other slide, Michael?
Absolutely. Let's go for it.
Perfect. I'll start with the first one here. We talked about Senate Bill 20 being heard this Tuesday. House Bill 1006. It will be actually on the House floor tomorrow. So that's an interesting one. This is Hartsook's bill giving the teachers' unions the ability to turn school property into affordable housing. So bad news there, folks. Watch the House debate on that one. We really need some of the leaders in the state House, the pro-liberty leaders, to stand up and speak out on 1006. Would love to see Hartsook get some criticism for that one. Okay, go ahead.
House Bill 1127, register and drive surplus military vehicles. This is a good bill by Rep. Barone, who we had on just a couple weeks ago, and then Senator Pelton. Passed two committees. Now it's on the appropriation. Senate Bill 1287, terrible bill, social media tools for minor users and parents. House Committee on Health and Human. It's now referred to the House Committee on Health and Human Services and referred to appropriations. Excuse me, it passed Health and Human Services, amended to appropriations.
Yep, these bills are kind of hanging out there in appropriations. 1287, bad bill. Really disappointed to see 1127 has been in appropriations for weeks now. So yeah, there it goes, folks. We talked about the Bitcoin vending machines bill being heard on tomorrow, and then 1327 also being heard tomorrow. So we talked about those two already.
Senate Bill 131, reducing cost of housing, introduces Senate assigned to state veterans and military affairs. That is by Minority Leader on Dean. And then House Bill 1239, which is COTA. This is passed House, introduced in the Senate and cited to a judiciary for tomorrow. If you guys can get down there, it'd be fantastic if you guys could speak out against this bill.
Yeah, it's bad news for sure. Just didn't have time to cover it in depth tonight. We covered it in the past, but yeah, that's an interesting one to watch. House Bill 1175, the smart meter opt-in program. Unfortunately, the bill's been watered down. We can still support it, being heard on the Senate floor on Monday, April 14th. 1209, we talked about, that's the marijuana regulation bill that has also been stripped down.
Senate Bill 5, this is a disgusting bill to end work protection. Basically it's going to end our 80-year run as a right to work state. It's going to be heard tomorrow on the House, and then Senate Bill 72, a regulation of kratom. This is assigned to appropriations, thankfully, and there is no date on this one yet.
Yeah, hope both those bills die. I think Senate Bill 5 is going to pass, but there definitely needs to be some outspoken attacks on that one. Here's Senate Bill 201. This is something that Texas passed in years past, where if you want to get on a pornographic website, you have to prove your age somehow. Now, there's the people who are providing testimony for this bill, so they have technology where you can like hold up your hand and they can measure something and tell how old you are. I don't like the idea of having to use digital ID and really giving the state the power to restrict people to get online. Don't get me wrong, I do not want kids accessing this material, of course, but we all know how it is, folks. We're all skeptical of the government here, and you start giving the government power to require age checks, and all of a sudden now you have to have your digital ID. Real IDs in the news right now. How soon before it's going to be digital real ID that you have to get even on the web online? So that's what they're pushing. That's why I'd be against this bill being heard on the Senate floor tomorrow. 1312 passed through the House onto the Senate. We'll definitely keep talking about that on social media as that one pops up.
House Resolution 1023. This one, this is the bill that Brandon and I and a lot of other Liberty people went and spoke out against. This is the Tabor lawsuit that will be heard tomorrow on the House floor, unfortunately. And then House Bill 1291, Transportation Network Company Consumer Protection. I believe this is the one where they are going to try to add a bunch of if I remember correctly, and check me on this one, Brandon, this is the one where they want to add a bunch of force people who drive in different like Ubers and Lyfts to force a bunch of cameras on inside the cars, etc. That's going to be heard tomorrow on the House floor as well.
Yeah, 100%. We kind of went through the committee so fast we didn't really get a chance to talk about it on the live stream. But yeah, they want to just create new regulatory schemes where there's like live video and biometrics and this and that for rideshare drivers. Definitely bad news there, folks. Senate Bill 276, the Protect the Civil Rights Immigration Status. So this is the one they just dropped in just over a week ago to basically say that this is their pro illegal immigration bill, pushing back against Trump. So that'll be heard Tuesday on the Senate floor. Will be interesting to watch that debate. House Bill 1321. This is the one where they're going to use money that's already set aside in our state government to fight lawsuits to go after Donald Trump for any adverse federal action that he does that they don't like. So there you go, folks. They just want to expand the power of the state government to use legal action using taxpayer money to push back against the Trump agenda there. So that's what that one is. Being heard tomorrow. Tomorrow on the House floor. And we'll see how many of these they actually get through.
Senate Bill 25, Senate Bill 173, Revenue Classification Taxpayer Bill of Rights. This is another one that is this is another attack on Tabor. It's going to be heard on Tuesday in the House floor.
Yeah, definitely. They're going to restrict, they're going to exempt certain revenue from Tabor so they can keep more of their greedy little paws on it. Moving on here, House Bill 1303. This is where they're going to increase our insurance premiums. They're going to require insurance companies in Colorado to collect more money for this ridiculous little scheme where they're going to somehow be able to prevent motor vehicle collisions with vulnerable road users. So bike lanes, this and that, and our they're going to add a cost to our insurance to pay for it. Absolutely ridiculous. That one should get people up in arms for sure. It's over to appropriations, no date there. House Bill 1281, this is the K vehicle or key vehicles. Different ways to say it, but that's going to be heard also Monday on the House floor. That's a good one. Hope it passes 1281.
Senate Bill 18. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Now we're on to bills that have passed. So these are all passed bills that have passed and that the governor has either signed into law or, but they passed the House and the Senate.
Senate Bill 183, this is one that we discussed with Rep. Bradley and Erin Lee, where they're going to give a bunch of money to state money to pay for abortions, and those abortions are for anybody who comes into Colorado. So basically, it's going to it's basically going to create additional abortion tourism.
Yep, Colorado's a sanctuary state for abortions and transgender stuff. Also passed is 1247 to increase taxes on county lodging places for affordable housing. Also 1113, the government's forcing high density housing into communities, and now there's no water, of course. So they're going to say, well, if you're a multifamily residential place like an apartment, you are not allowed to have non-functional turf. So there you go.
House Bill 1238, gun show requirements. This is basically this is the latest attempt to kill gun shows. It's passed on to the governor, as well as House Bill 1203, misbranding cultivated meat products as meat. This one has passed on to the governor as well. I know we saw a different version of this one through, I believe it was Rep. Bottoms, who was going to try to completely outright ban lab grown meat, and this one is at least going to call out the misbranding of meat products as meat.
1093. So, these local governments who want to restrict growth, they want to limit growth because they don't have the room, they don't have the water, they don't have the infrastructure. Well, our state government wants to have this top-down approach where they're pushing these local communities, forcing them to adopt growth policies that they don't want. And that's House Bill 1093. Bad news. Governor signed it. Senate Bill 86, that's the social media bill. It did pass. The governor, I'm sure will sign it. He did talk about vetoing it, so we'll see if that happens, but I know they amended it. We'll see. That's when the governor had threatened to veto in its first committee hearing.
Senate Bill 33, prohibit new liquor licensed drugstores. This is a direct violation of I believe it was a 2016 bill that was 2016 ballot initiative. It's passed on to the governor. And then Senate Bill 77, modification to the Colorado Open Records Act. We can thank our wonderful friend Matt Soper, if anybody knows anybody who might want to run. This was also passed on to the governor.
House Bill 1010 to the governor prohibiting the price gouging and sales of necessities. Of course, these bureaucrats and politicians think they can better understand prices than the market can. House Bill 1040, that's a good one. Governor did, I believe, sign that one. That was a nuclear energy bill to add nuclear energy as a clean energy resource. So that's a good thing.
Senate Bill 3, unfortunately, was signed by our wonderful Libertarian governor on Thursday. Absolute joke of a bill. Should never have gotten passed, and yet the man who calls himself a quote unquote libertarian when convenient signed it of all people. Also, we see the anti ammunition bill, Senate House Bill 1133 was also passed to the governor.
1005, the ridiculous bill. The governor signed this one to create a $34 million tax credit for the Sundance Film Festival. There you go, folks. And you did have Republicans vote for that. Just people would be interested to take a look at that. Nuclear energy is on here twice accidentally. So go ahead. Oh, killed. Now we're into killed bills. So all these bills here, this is a press F for respect, pour one out, RIP. All these bills had died this year. Good, bad, the ugly.
This is unfortunately a good bill that was killed. House Bill 1243. This was a good bill that was going to limit certain uh, LEOs from asking specific questions that might lead to entrapment or, yeah, essentially entrapment. It was unfortunately killed. House Bill 1145, trafficking minor for abortion or transgender care. This was the anti-trans bill, a fantastic bill by Rep. Bottoms. That was, or I shouldn't say anti-trans bill. It's an anti-transing the kids bill that was also killed in committee.
Yeah, anti-child trafficking bill, basically. Another
Mhm.
bill that died was a very lenient bill to slightly loosen up Colorado's ridiculous 2 a.m. cutoff law by just a half hour, basically, and then consumption till 3 a.m. Killed. Senate Bill 156, a great bill to reduce the cost of state regulation, also killed.
Senate Bill or House Bill 1255, healthcare provider right to exercise conscience. A fantastic bill by Rep. Luck was killed, as well as House Bill 1251, parental consent to treatment of a minor. This was killed as well.
1190, the Tamale Act to expand the cottage food industry, also dead. 1232, a liability when means self-defense. Good bill there, was also killed, unfortunately.
House Bill 1089, county mail ballot signature verification requirements. This was a fantastic bill to uphold our election integrity. That was killed. And then 1141, gift card and retail property crime penalties was killed as well.
The ridiculous Tom Sullivan pro cigar bill. Actually, I like that bill. Senate Bill 56 was dead. House Bill 1055, repeal firearm deal requirements. Freshman Rep. Brooks, good pro gun bill, died, of course.
House Bill 1074 changed confinement standards for egg-laying hens. This was the bill that we worked with Rep. Gonzalez on, and Senator Kirkmeyer signed on as well. It was unfortunately killed back in January. And then House Bill 1051, which was going to help repeal some of the fees on bags within restaurants, that was killed as well.
Here's that bottoms bill where he was going to ban insect production for human consumption. 1134, that bill died. House Bill 1143, open source software and voting systems, also killed.
House Bill 1144, repeal retail delivery fees. This was a good bill by Rep. Woog. That was killed. And then Senate Bill 47, enforcement of federal immigration law. This was unfortunately killed as well.
Yes, a lot of good bills, folks, that have died. It's important for you to see this because it's good to know what would be some good pro-liberty legislation that we could see. So the Sukla's bill to remove the restrictions on rain barrel collection, 1106 was a great bill, of course, died. Senate Bill 57 to cancel voter registration of non-citizens. Of course, that's not a problem, but they still killed the bill anyway.
House Bill 1242, government transparency laws. That was a bill by Garcia Sander and Senator Pelton that was killed. And then thankfully, Senate Bill 76, intoxicating substances and social equity businesses. I was shocked to see a Boulder Democrat be drug warrior, but it was actually killed.
Definitely. Moving on, the Afuera bill, we called it. That was Senator Baisley's great bill to reduce all these costs on people. It was killed, unfortunately. House Bill 1073, the Protections Against Child Rape. Probably one of the best bills of the session. Representative Bradley's great bill to actually hold child rapists accountable that are not being held accountable right now, believe it or not, in Colorado. Unfortunately died.
House Bill 1067. Unfortunately, this was killed. We had some people that I thought would be pro-liberty that would support this bill. Unfortunately, they were bullied out of supporting this one. And House Bill 1100 requirements for filling certain vacancies in office. This was killed. It was a good bill by Rep Luck.
And last one, surprisingly, House Bill 1262 to regulate private security officers because, of course, they don't want anybody to be carrying a gun unless they get state permission. That's the whole idea behind this. But the bill ended up being killed at the request of the bill sponsor. So happy about that. But there we go, folks. And there we go. That's our live stream. Tons of great information. Really hope people got some good education, some good inside information. But yeah, folks, there's nobody else doing this, giving you a breakdown week by week. Share this with people. It's going to stay on YouTube so you can go back, find information. We'll be on X all week. Follow LPCO and Free State Colorado on X so you can stay up to date about any of the bills we talked about. I'm sure we'll be talking about some of them. So appreciate everybody joining us. What are some wrap it up, Michael? What do you think?
I'm excited for the last couple weeks that we're at the last few weeks of legislative session. I believe we're about three weeks away from this being all over and our rights being protected again from further destruction. But that also means we need to stay vigilant because we're only going to see more and more tricks. We're going to see more last minute bills that are going to get shoved through with with very little to no time for us to actually figure out what's going on before they get passed through. So stay vigilant, stay aware. We're very excited for you. We're excited for this to end, but these are the times where we need.
Yep, vigilance for sure, Michael, 100%. And appreciate everybody in the chat. We had an awesome chat tonight. Thanks, Brian, Missy, Gordon, everybody who made it to the end here, and everybody who was here earlier. Amazing guests. This is absolutely incredible. And it's easy. It's great to get the guests on and to be able to tell them, hey, we had 500 people, we had 600 people, we had 700 people, we had 800 people watch that last live stream, and that really makes it exciting for us to get new guests to come on and talk with us. So I really appreciate everybody out there. I mean, that's what it's all about. So everybody who's liking, sharing, subscribing, who's watching, really appreciate you all. We're going to win. Like Michael said, we're going to win. It's not going to be tomorrow. It's not going to be the day after that, but we are going to win. And we're not giving up. Hashtag not going anywhere. Hashtag not leaving. We're going to stay and fight and join us in this fight for the soul of Colorado, folks. So really appreciate you, everybody. Got a lot of great new videos coming out. Already got 3 videos already recorded for this week on Free State Colorado on YouTube. It's really exciting stuff, and definitely going to be talking to somebody else tomorrow to get another video going. So lots of fun stuff coming out. And yeah, and as somebody was mentioning earlier, definitely have some plans to put out some great content about how we can take back our state, certain districts to target, strategy, resources. That Free State Colorado is going to be with you the whole way through the 2026 election. So appreciate everybody. Appreciate you, Michael. Thanks, everybody. This has been a blast. It's so much fun to see how this grow, and I'm really excited for the future.
Same here. I cannot wait to see what's going to happen in Colorado. It's not about us. It's about making a freer state for the citizens of Colorado.
100%, 100%. So awesome, guys. Take care, and we'll see you next week every Sunday night through May. I mean, it's Easter. Michael, are you still able to make it next week with Easter?
I should be able to make it next week.
Perfect. We'll be here. We'll be here, folks. So we'll see you in 1 week, 7:30 to 9:30 at least to talk about what's going on. So appreciate you. Take care.